Chapter 1861, Fang Gong lifts his suspicions. Chapter 1861 Fang Gong lifts his suspicions. Fang clan headquarters. Fang Dichang was resting in bed, his face still somewhat pale. A young rank 6 Gu immortal was standing by the bed. He was Fang Yun. Fang Yun was Fang Dichang's adopted son. He was young, handsome, and his eyes were bright like stars. Right now, he had a concerned expression as he bowed. "Father, you have suffered such heavy injuries, you need to rest properly. Please tell me what I can do for you." Fang Yun was completely unaware that the father in front of him was someone else, a clone of Fang Yuan. In a way, Fang Yuan could be considered his father's murderer. Fang Yun was treating the enemy as his father. Fang Dichang coughed and waved his hand weakly. "Yun don't put on an act. Can father still not understand your nature? Come, sit here, don't be so restrained." Fang Yun's expression immediately relaxed as he shrugged his shoulders and raised his eyebrows, sitting by the bedside. "Father, you really gave me a scare. I didn't think you would make such a big move this time, it was truly risky. Such a pity that Senior Swan Bujin lost his life." Fang Yun had a sad expression. Fang Yuan had once saved Fang Yun's life as Swan Bujin. Fang Yun had all along remembered this and had high regard for Swan Bujin. And this time, Fang Dichang had not told the truth of the plot to Fang Yun. The people who were in on the plan to get rid of Swan Bujin were limited to Fang clan's first Supreme Elder, second Supreme Elder, and third Supreme Elder. This plan could not have too many people, especially Fang Yun. Swan Bujin had much contact with Fang Yun. He was a shrewd wisdom path Gu immortal and could easily make Fang Yun expose the conspiracy had Fang Yun known the truth. Fang Dichang was a wisdom path great grandmaster. He paid attention to every detail. In all fairness, had it been any other Gu immortal, they might have really been done in by Fang Dichang. Even Fang Yuan, if he didn't have the premonition which made him improve karma divine tree, might have been in some trouble. Fang Dichang did not make any slip-ups. He had already overestimated Swan Bujin as much as possible. But when he knew Swan Bujin's true identity, he immediately realized, he had greatly underestimated Fang Yuan. In fact, not only Fang Dichang, even Heavenly Court's wisdom path great expert Fairy Zi Wei was underestimating Fang Yuan. It was such that the whole Gu immortal world of the 5 regions was greatly underestimating Fang Yuan. They thought Fang Yuan was still a rank 7. Fang Yuan had long since advanced to rank 8 and even used his Qi ancestor identity to get a portion of Primordial Origin's Qi path true inheritance out of Duke Long's hands. Fang Dichang was only a rank 7, the Gu formation and the Gu house he was relying on were completely seen through by Fang Yuan. At the same time, Divine Bean Palace also became Fang Yuan's support. Fang Dichang had treated Swan Bujin as a crocodile and had never imagined there to be a vicious dragon under the crocodile skin. Thus, he was crushed. He made such a huge mistake that there was no chance to make a comeback. "Yun come, give me your hand," Fang Dichang said. Fang Yun was puzzled, but he did not want to disobey his father's order and obediently stretched his arm. Fang Dichang put 3 immortal Gu in his hand. "Father, what are you doing?" Fang Yun was shocked. "I intend to hand over my wisdom path inheritance to you." Fang Yun was dazed for a moment before he said, "But father, I cultivate cloud path, not wisdom path. Moreover, didn't you allow me to cultivate cloud path before?" Fang Dichang nodded. "I allowed you to cultivate cloud path before because you have a lively nature and did not want to take on responsibilities, which suits cloud path. But cloud path is only a minor path, it can never compare to wisdom path. Most importantly, this event made me question myself. Swan Bujin's death is the best reminder to me. I need to look for a wisdom path inheritor for the clan. If something happens to me, there will be someone to replace me." "Father, don't talk about such things," Fang Yun quickly replied. "Life is uncertain, what accidents cannot happen? Life is full of the unexpected. I am now heavily injured and lying in bed, it was something I had never imagined before. Moreover, you know about our clan situation. I must prepare for the future of our clan," Fang Dichang said in a sincere and serious tone. Fang Yun nodded and had a rare look of solemnity. "Father, you are right. I will change to cultivating wisdom path." Fang Dichang nodded with a smile before shaking his head. You are my son, as your father, I know you don't suit wisdom path, cloud path is the most suitable for you. I am planning for the clan but won't overlook you. So, father's arrangement is to first hand the wisdom path inheritance to you, but you don't need to change to cultivating wisdom path. You already have cloud path foundation, it will be troublesome and a great loss for you to change now. Currently, you only need to hold on to this wisdom path inheritance. If there is a critical situation in the future requiring you to make the sacrifice, change your cultivation path then. If father passes away someday, select a suitable inheritor to pass on this wisdom path inheritance, understood? Father, your arrangements are very wise, I understand. Fang Yun laughed, he immediately relaxed after knowing that he did not have to cultivate wisdom path. Leave, you brat, father needs to rest. Get used to these 3 wisdom path immortal Gu first. There is your senior Swan Bujin's distracting thoughts immortal Gu among them, although he died, I need to pass on his inheritance. Fang Dichang said while waving his hand. I will take my leave. Fang Yun left quickly and closed the door gently. Only Fang Yuan's clone was left in the room. He closed his eyes and pondered inwardly with an exhausted look. My physical body is Fang Dichang's, so there was no flaw in the blood. Fang Dichang has not died, so there is no change in life tablet Gu. His soul was personally taken care of by the main body. After splitting the soul, many soul path methods were used and adding on the advantage of the time flow in the sovereign immortal aperture, the soul matches with the body extremely well and there is no flaw. However, just these are still not enough. Fang Dichang thought of Fang Gong. Although Fang Yuan had not been in much contact with Fang Gong, he understood the latter's nature. From the outside, Fang Gong was bold and reckless, he did not bother about little things, but in fact, under his bold appearance, he was highly shrewd and cautious. This could be seen from when he schemed against Chen Yi. He was a grand rank 8 Gu immortal, but he actually hid his cultivation level and disguised as an ordinary Gu immortal. When he saw the timing was right, he suddenly erupted with his strength and struck Chen Yi viciously. Chen Yi was caught off guard and suffered a huge loss. Fang Yuan knew that to deceive this kind of person, he could not rely on just having no flaws that could be found. He needed to put up a performance as well. Oh. Second elder intentionally gave his wisdom path inheritance to Fang Yun. Fang Gong soon received this news. The one who reported the news was his own biological great-grandson, an outstanding expert among rank 6 and Fang clan's possible successor, Fang Leng. Fang Leng had a square face and was slightly older than Fang Yun. Fang Yun was very close to Fang Leng. When he obtained Fang Dichang's inheritance, he did not hide it from this respected senior brother. Fang Leng was clearly much more shrewd than Fang Yun. That very night, he reported this news to Fang Gong. Fang Gong frowned slightly, not speaking. He knew Fang Dichang's intention. Fang clan's external situation was troubling and there was huge pressure on them, but there were also internal struggles inside the clan. Places with people have conflicts, even if there were more and more resources, they still needed to consider how to distribute it. The clan's resources were limited, who used them now, who used them later, who could use them better, who used them worse, these were natural conflicts and could never be reconciled. The 2 biggest factions in Fang clan belonged to Fang Gong and Fang Dichang. These 2 factions cooperated closely but it did not mean there was no strife between them. In fact, these 2 factions were always contesting with each other, it was just that Fang Gong's faction had 3rd Supreme Elder Fang Huasheng while Fang Dichang was only a rank 7, they had always firmly grasped the highest authority in the clan. Fang Dichang possessed the wisdom path inheritance which had always been the foundation of the 2nd faction. Fang Gong's frown was because he had been thinking if he could take the chance to ask for this wisdom path inheritance. Look, you almost lost your life this time, the wisdom path inheritance is in your hands, it will be Fang clan's greatest loss if there were to be an accident. This was for the sake of the clan, if they pressured him with it, there was indeed a chance to force Fang Dichang to hand over the inheritance or at least a portion of it. There was a difference between the politics of a clan and a sect. The clan's politics prioritized family relationship, their inheritances were passed down through bloodline ties. Although Fang Yun was Fang Dichang's adopted son, the relationship was extremely good. This was because Fang Yun had been personally raised by Fang Dichang since a young age. Fang Dichang truly loved this son, If not, he would not have let him cultivate Cloud Path. He cared about his feelings and future happiness. In the future, when Fang Dichang retires, his second Supreme Elder position would be taken by Fang Yun according to the custom. Fang clan had a lot of Gu immortals, but this position could only belong to Fang Yun. Unless Fang Dichang raises an inheritor who cultivates Wisdom Path and is much more outstanding than Fang Yun. Fang Dichang's Wisdom Path inheritance belonged to Fang clan in name, but in fact, it was held by his faction and passed on from generation to generation. Fang Yun cultivated Cloud Path and did not have the qualifications to inherit this Wisdom Path inheritance. This was the most obvious weakness of Fang Dichang's faction. Fang Gong was just thinking of striking this weakness but had never expected Fang Dichang to put a stop to his plan before he even started. As expected of a Wisdom Path Great Grandmaster. Fang Gong's brows relaxed and a smile appeared on his face as he waved his hand. Fang Ling understood, I will take my leave. We lost our chance this time, so forget it. After all, we are all members of Fang clan, we are on the same side. Fang Gong was not too upset but was somewhat worried. After all, Fang Dichang's scheme succeeded and Xuan Bujin was sacrificed to refine Divine Bean Palace. With this rank 8 Immortal Gu house, the strength of Fang clan's second faction rose greatly. Fang Gong felt a huge pressure because of this. As a higher up, he needed to consider a lot of things. Fang clan's first Supreme Elder, who was in control of Fang clan for so many years, not only had to look after his own cultivation and nurture later generations, he also had to lead Fang clan in resisting external enemies and expanding their territories. At the same time, he also needed to pay attention to the internal forces of Fang clan. Second Supreme Elder took action so quickly, his true intentions can be seen from this. He absolutely cannot be Xuan Bujin's disguise. Right now, the final trace of doubt had disappeared from Fang Gong's mind. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1862, Rank 8 Ant Nest Gu. 1862 Rank 8 Ant Nest Gu. In the depths of Eastern Sea, Gu tribe headquarters. Over half a month had passed in the Blessed Land, the Dusty Seal was completely unlocked. There were many Gu immortals at the scene, Fang Yuan's Dragonman clone Wu Shuai, 2 dragon generals, Gu tribe's leader, as well as several Beastman Gu immortals. Seeing the seal unlocked, Gu tribe's leader nodded in his mind, he was even more certain of Wu Shuai's identity. This seal was arranged by Wu Shuai himself and was further strengthened by generations of Gu tribe leaders. Back then, Wu Shuai had realized he did not have much chance and arranged for a portion of his inheritance to be preserved in Gu tribe headquarters. Gu tribe's leader looked at Wu Shuai and smiled, please. Wu Shuai waved his hand, a large gray rock rose to the air and was stored by Wu Shuai into his immortal aperture. Wu Shuai activated his method to dissect the rock. Because of the correct method, the rock was dissected quickly and revealed 2 immortal Gu inside. One was rank 8 Immortal Gu ant nest which looked like an ordinary inverted bowl, it was brown and had a rough appearance. However, this Immortal Gu was the core Immortal Gu of green ant ascetic. This Gu could breed all kinds of army ants. Army ant was a species created by green ant ascetic, it was extremely suitable for enslavement path Gu immortals. In history, the real Wu Shuai's most used method was also army ant. Naturally, the queen ant of army ants could also breed other ants. But the queen ant could not breed another queen ant, this was a huge disadvantage. After the Dragonman race's extermination, Duke Long had sent the order to remove all the related things and records. Back then, green ant ascetic had already been enslaved by Dragon Palace and army ant had also become one of the symbols of the Dragonman race, thus it was also implicated. With all these reasons, army ants were like a shooting star, disappearing instantly from history. Besides Ant Nest Immortal Gu, there was also an Information Path Immortal Gu, it was rank 7 and was called Letter Seal. Letter Seal Immortal Gu contained a large amount of contents regarding army ants. Besides this, Letter Seal Immortal Gu had been used to seal Ant Nest Immortal Gu. Ant Nest Immortal Gu was at rank 8, it was not easy to preserve it as an inheritance. Because for an Immortal Gu's existence, it needed to be fed in time, or else, it would die of hunger. Wu Shuai used Letter Seal Immortal Gu to cover Ant Nest Immortal Gu with a thick layer of rock membrane, creating an immortal Gu rock. As the price, letter seal immortal Gu had to be left inside the rock as well. Gambling den Gu masters would create some fake rocks for profits. They would put Gu worm inside the rocks, then make people open them, increasing the gambling den's reputation. Wu Shuai's method was similar to it. It was just that he made the false rock not for profit but to preserve ant nest immortal Gu. This method was quite effective as ant nest Gu was still alive after so many years. Naturally, when Fang Yuan's clone Wu Shuai dissected the rock, ant nest immortal Gu was at an extremely weak and hungry state. Letter seal immortal Gu was also the same. But it was not serious. Fang Yuan had already prepared the food and given them to Wu Shuai. Wu Shuai fed the immortal Gu while walking back with the Gu tribe immortals. On the way, Wu Shuai thanked, "Your noble tribe kept your word. You preserved my inheritance until now. You are really my Dragonman race's most trustworthy friend." The current Gu tribe leader laughed, "Lord Wu Shuai, I won't hide it from you, there have been ups and downs. It is not that my tribe's Gu immortals did not covet your inheritance, but the tribe leader back then set a rule that every Gu tribe leader had to first add a seal to this inheritance when they took the position. And we have always kept Fate Gu's revelation in mind, so this inheritance was able to be preserved until now." Gu tribe's leader was frank, making Wu Shuai laugh heartily. Wu Shuai guaranteed on the spot, "My friendship with your tribe has lasted for 1,000,000 years, and it shall continue in the future as well. Right now, I am collaborating with Fang Yuan and have already solved the Dragonman extermination killer move. This move had once killed me, and exterminated my clan, but from now onwards, it will have no effect." The eyes of Gu tribe's leader brightened. "This is extremely good news. Dragonmen reign supreme, this is the decree of heaven. Senior, to be honest, I have a favor to ask of you." Over these days in Gu tribe headquarters, Fang Yuan's clone had enjoyed warm hospitality and they had even taken the initiative to return Wu Shuai's inheritance. Mutual benefit was the foundation for allies. It was fair for Gu tribe's leader to make some requests right now. Fang Yuan's clone replied immediately with no hesitation, "Just speak your mind, as long as it is within my abilities, I will help you. I want to transform a portion of my tribe's members to Dragonmen." "Senior, what do you think?" Gu tribe's leader asked with anticipation. Fang Yuan nodded, "My close friend back then, Gu Liang, who was also your tribe's leader, had this intention as well. At present, since I already have a completely new Dragonman lifespan extension method, I can naturally help you." Gu tribe's leader was joyous, "Many thanks, Senior. My tribe has already prepared the Raging Wave Rising Dragon Fire, please tell us what other immortal materials are needed." Gu tribe had been hiding in the depths of Eastern Sea and its successive generations had actively searched and gathered Raging Wave Rising Dragon Fire. Over the 1,000,000 years, and with Eastern Sea being the #1 region in resources, the present Gu tribe treasury had a rarely seen reserve of Raging Wave Rising Dragon Fire. Fang Yuan's clone gave a few instructions and Gu tribe's leader immediately acted accordingly. Several days later, immortal materials and candidates arrived before Wu Shuai. Wu Shuai brought out Dragon Palace. Using the Dragonman lifespan extension method inside this immortal Gu house could receive the assistance of Dragon Palace itself. This batch of Gu tribe members had over 10 people. Most were rank 5 Gu masters while 2 were Gu immortals. Among them, half were elderly with their lifespan nearing the end and with no other lifespan extension methods left. The Dragonman lifespan extension method became their only hope. The other half were young adults, the elites of the current Gu tribe. Several days passed again. With the dragon spirit's help and the methods of Fang Yuan's clone, the Dragonman lifespan extension method was used. Most of the Gu tribe candidates turned into Dragonmen, but a portion were unlucky and lost their lives. After all, the Dragonman lifespan extension method still had risks. Even so, Gu tribe's leader was very happy at this result. "Senior, your modified method has a much higher success rate than the original. My race's extermination was the price to obtain this achievement." Fang Yuan's clone heaved a sigh. Gu tribe's leader immediately consoled, "Senior, I am sorry for your loss." As he said this, he presented a batch of immortal materials. For ant nest immortal Gu to create army ants, immortal essence was only one of the conditions, it still required specific immortal materials. Fang Yuan's clone required these immortal materials. The Gu tribe leader of back then knew this secret and had gathered these materials. The current Gu tribe leader offered them, which showed their sincerity. Fang Yuan's clone rejected. I converted your tribe members as thanks, we did not discuss any remuneration. Senior, please don't stand on ceremony, this is only a small gift from us. Gu tribe's leader smiled. But Fang Yuan's clone still persisted. It has not been easy for you to survive, you are also my Dragonman race's most trustworthy and reliable ally. How can I, Wu Shuai, treat my ally like this? Although I don't have the immortal materials, I am already in collaboration with Fang Yuan, I can ask for him to provide the immortal materials. Senior, Fang Yuan is a devil of this age, he might only have rank 7 cultivation, but even Heavenly Court is unable to handle him. He is sinister and crafty, vicious and malicious, he can do anything as long as there are enough benefits. I hope you are vigilant, Senior. Fang Yuan's clone could not help but laugh in his mind. Gu tribe's leader was speaking ill of Fang Yuan in front of Fang Yuan, were he to know that Wu Shuai was Fang Yuan's clone, who knew what spectacular expression he would show. Fang Yuan's clone nodded, your words make sense, but Heavenly Court's force is huge, and Fang Yuan is no doubt a huge help that cannot be neglected. Even if I am taking favors from a tiger, as long as it can increase my chance of victory against Heavenly Court and Duke Long, even if slightly, I am willing to take the risk. Gu tribe's leader nodded and sighed, Senior, you are right. To be honest, my Gu tribe might be hiding in this corner, but we have made many reliable allies. Eastern Sea's Merman Imperial Court is one of them. My Gu tribe has received a lot of help from them. Merman Imperial Court, this is indeed good news. The gaze of Fang Yuan's clone brightened. Merman Imperial Court was a super force that had once received support from Paradise Earth Immortal Venerable. The human race had dominance, Gu tribe was a beastman tribe hiding in the bottom of the sea, it was not strange for them to have a close relationship with mermen. Gu tribe's leader continued, besides this, my tribe has some connections with the other 4 regions as well. For instance, we have stable trade with Murong tribe in Northern Plains. Some years ago, when Imperial Court Blessed Land was destroyed and 88 True Yang building collapsed, I had gone to Northern Plains to participate in Northern Plains auction, I received warm hospitality from Murong tribe back then. Wu Shuai thought, so it was you. Fang Yuan's main body had also participated in Northern Plains auction. This auction was hosted by Qin Baisheng. Back then, Gu tribe's leader had worn a tall hat and large cloak and had an ordinary face, it was clearly a disguise. Right now, Wu Shuai was looking at the real appearance of Gu tribe's leader. Fang Yuan had converted Gu tribe members to Dragonmen, it had clearly deepened their friendship and Gu tribe's leader took the initiative to reveal many secrets. Gu tribe might have been living in hiding, but over such a long period of time, they had a lot of contact with the outside world and had an extremely firm foundation. Using Gu tribe as a focal point, he could influence all 5 regions. Naturally, this influence was limited. But this limited influence could display a huge effect through Fang Yuan's planning. This is good news. Fang Yuan's main body was quite happy when he received this information. Right now, he was no longer in Western Desert, but had arrived at Northern Plains. He rapidly descended, below him was a giant pit. The pit's entrance was almost circular and spanned hundreds of kilometers, it looked extremely grand. Fang Yuan looked down and saw a scene of wilderness. There was a thick rainforest, having both yellow and green colors. From time to time, desolate beasts growled, large numbers of featherless birds flew out, their red bodies looked like the historical pterosaurs of Earth. It was one of the 10 great fierce areas of Northern Plains, Crazed Demon Cave. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know, report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1863, Walking Through the 7th Layer Again. 1863 Walking Through the 7th Layer Again. Fang Yuan was dressed in a white robe, slowly descending to Crazed Demon Cave. 2 Gu immortals were already waiting for a long time on the ground. One Gu immortal had a pale face and black beard, he had long wide sleeves and eyes that were shining like stars, he had an extraordinary air. He was known as not immortal and he cultivated rule path. The other Gu immortal was short, his height only reaching Fang Yuan's knee. His tiny eyes were shining brightly. He was secret schemer and he cultivated wisdom path. The current Fang Yuan could not be compared to the past. He had trampled on Heavenly Court in the Battle of Xianxia and 2 battles in the River of Time. He had even captured a large group of southern border immortals, which included 2 rank 8s. Not long ago, there was even news from Eastern Sea's Gu immortal world that Fang Yuan borrowed Qi Si ancestor's strength to block Duke Long, while he took away immortal Gu House Dragon Palace. In terms of who was the strongest and most famous demonic path Gu immortal of the current generation, no one fit better than Fang Yuan. Friends, we meet again. After Fang Yuan landed, he greeted politely with a smile. Secret schemer and not immortal returned the greeting hurriedly. Not immortal smiled. After the previous parting, when we heard of Brother Lu's true identity being Guyu Fang Yuan, we were truly surprised and joyous. Since you have come here this time, you must have a method to break through the current barrier. We have been waiting anxiously for a long time. Fang Yuan had undergone the Crazed Demon agreement using Lu Guanyi's identity, and had become a member of Crazed Demon Cave like Chu Du. Therefore, not immortal addressed Fang Yuan as Brother Lu. As far as the 3 Crazed Demon eccentrics were concerned, Fang Yuan's appearance had not changed because Lu Guanyi's appearance was the original appearance of Fang Yuan's sovereign immortal body. Why don't I see Pang Shan? Fang Yuan asked. He seemed to have gained some insight when he explored the 7th layer and is currently in closed cultivation. Secret schemer replied. So that's it. Fang Yuan smiled, understanding in his head. The 3 Crazed Demon eccentrics were taking precautions against him. Back then, when he went under the name of Lu Guanyi, his strength was not high. The current Fang Yuan was progressing rapidly. The whole world acknowledged that Fang Yuan could battle rank 8 despite being only at rank 7. The 3 Crazed Demon eccentrics were naturally concerned about Fang Yuan suddenly making a vicious move against them. After all, Fang Yuan was the biggest demon at present. His nature was vicious and cruel. Don't be fooled by his smiling expression. He was, in actuality, a ruthless murderer who killed without even blinking his eyes. Although the 3 Crazed Demon eccentrics had long secluded themselves inside Crazed Demon Cave and were only engrossed in cultivating, they were not fools. Especially the head of the 3 eccentrics, Secret Schemer. His performance in Fang Yuan's previous life was quite spectacular and made Heavenly Court suffer major losses. The 3 Crazed Demon eccentrics were wary of Fang Yuan, thus Pang Shan did not appear and was hiding somewhere. It was very likely that him being in closed cultivation was only an excuse just in case Fang Yuan went crazy and attacked them. As long as there was at least 1 eccentric left, they would not have the worry of Fang Yuan killing them all. Not only this, the 3 Crazed Demon eccentrics might have some backup methods, which is why they are keeping a person outside. Fang Yuan deduced inwardly. Although Fang Yuan had undergone the Crazed Demon agreement, he had already gotten rid of its restrictions. The 3 Crazed Demon eccentrics also had the killer move Do Not Care, and could completely ignore the Crazed Demon agreement. The 3 Crazed Demon eccentrics were wary of Fang Yuan and were on guard, but Fang Yuan did not actually want to attack them. At least, he did not want to attack now. This is already the 3rd time I am inside Crazed Demon Cave. I hope there will be some gains. Fang Yuan's main target for this trip was still limitless true inheritance. Not long in the future, Heavenly Court would definitely hold the Central Continent Refinement Path Convention to restore Fate Gu. At that time, there would definitely be a huge battle involving Gu immortals of the 5 regions. In this battle, no matter how powerful Fang Yuan became, he could not control the situation. Any venerable methods could easily topple the situation. Fang Yuan had already realized this in the previous life. The best example was Duke Long. Duke Long was unmatched, but he was nothing against venerable methods. Limitless Demon Venerable bound him instantly and made him unable to even budge for a long time. It was because of Genesis Lotus Immortal Venerable's method that Duke Long got free from the bindings and regained his freedom. Fang Yuan's plan was that in this life, he would not only actively increase his strength but also gather some venerable true inheritances. If he could trigger venerable methods, it would be the perfect support in his plan to destroy Fate Gu. And the most reliable clue was here, Crazed Demon Cave. Fang Yuan's timing was also perfect. His current strength had already risen a lot. Although he only had rank 7 cultivation on the surface, he had already advanced to rank 8, even if the 3 crazed demon eccentrics went against him, he could quickly counterattack without any worry about his safety. Moreover, after some time, Longevity Heaven's Bing Sai Chuan would awaken. His awakening would have a huge influence on Longevity Heaven and the whole Northern Plains Gu immortal world. Were Fang Yuan to come to Northern Plains at that time and make a big commotion, he might have to face Longevity Heaven led by Bing Sai Chuan, which would be hard to deal with. Not Immortal guided the way ahead while Secret Schemer accompanied Fang Yuan and conversed with him. Fang Yuan followed the 2 eccentrics deep into Crazed Demon Cave. Crazed Demon Cave had 9 layers. The first layer was the most external layer, it was also the scene Fang Yuan saw from high in the sky. The second layer was an incredibly hot land of burning rocks. The third layer was covered in white fog, ferocious beasts moved in the fog, and there was also the fog city. It was extremely dangerous. Every layer had completely different environments, demonic sounds spread from the deepest 9th layer to the whole of Crazed Demon Cave at every set interval of time. When the demonic sounds spread, all beings went crazy and would start killing each other, creating extreme chaos. The deeper one went, the stronger the demonic sounds became. But the method created by the 3 crazed demon eccentrics could defend against a portion of the demonic sound's might. However, what Fang Yuan used was not this method. Before he came here, he had modified the previous method, and the new method had extraordinary effects, it could be considered an advanced version. After all, his current rule path attainment level was at Great Grandmaster. While the demonic sound was active, the activation of immortal killer moves would be greatly affected. This was because the demonic sounds were chaotic Dao marks, insanity was only the side effect. The 3 moved down the curved pathways before finally reaching the 7th layer, which was also the 3rd lowest layer. Back then, Fang Yuan's endpoint had been this layer. The 3 crazed demon eccentrics similarly were stopped here for several hundreds of years. It was because they were stuck at this barrier without any breakthrough that they took in Chu Du and Fang Yuan. However, their gains were also a lot. The 7 layers they explored had scattered traces of limitless demon venerables' inheritance. The 3 crazed demon eccentrics researched these clues and were able to roughly deduce the scene at the final layer, although they had never been there. Fang Yuan's sight was filled with dazzling light. All sorts of colors emanated from the rocks, soil, and grass in this place. This was Dao Mark light. When the density of Dao marks reached a certain level, they would let out this kind of brilliant radiance naturally. In this 7th layer, every grain of soil and every piece of rock was a quasi-rank 9 immortal material. The extremely unfortunate thing was these Dao marks were chaotic and could not be used. Fang Yuan, after you. Secret Schemer gave way. Ever since the previous failure, I have reflected on it and gained much insight. Fang Yuan laughed heartily as he walked in the front. Secret Schemer and Not Immortal glanced at each other before following Fang Yuan closely. In the recent period of time, Fang Yuan's reputation shook the world, but how much strength did he truly have? 3 crazed demon eccentrics were not sure, and this situation was the best chance to ascertain it. Secret Schemer and Not Immortal's attention were gathered on Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan walked leisurely. The first 10 steps were like strolling in sunshine. 20 steps, he was relaxed. 30 steps, his expression started to become serious. 40 steps, he was beginning to pant. 50 steps, he looked exhausted. Over 60 steps, Fang Yuan stopped for a breather. Secret Schemer looked at Not Immortal while Not Immortal also looked at Secret Schemer, both saw shock in each other's eyes. The countless conflicting Dao marks needed to be overcome to move in this place. The 3 crazed demon eccentrics' furthest limit had been over 10,000 steps, but they had rested again and again before continuing. If they were to move without resting like Fang Yuan, they would at most be able to walk 40-50 steps. The terrifying thing is that Fang Yuan walked over 60 steps, but it is obvious he has not used all his strength and is still at ease. Just this alone has surpassed us 3. But where do his limits lie? Thoughts surged up and down in the minds of not immortal and secret schemer. But in fact, Fang Yuan had sovereign immortal body, he simply did not suffer any conflict from Dao marks, so the exhaustion was only his disguise and act. Fang Yuan would rather put up a show because he wanted to awe the three crazed demon eccentrics while also hiding his abilities. Fang Yuan was a vigilant person who liked to keep his secrets hidden. If he could keep his cards under the table, he absolutely would not reveal them lightly. As expected of Fang Yuan. Right, such strength makes us three feel ashamed about ourselves. Fang Yuan narrowed his eyes. You don't need to be modest, I have been reborn several times and have many memories. The three crazed demon eccentrics have a famous reputation, you all have your own unique methods that even I have a high opinion of. Not immortal and secret schemer were shaken inwardly. Fang Yuan's words had deep meaning, they could be taken as praise but also taken as a warning. I have been reborn, I am familiar with your methods, don't make an enemy of me. The three continued to walk forward. The deeper they moved, the harder it became, and the more the pressure increased. We will save a lot of effort by relying on our respective paths' Dao marks on the upcoming paths. Fang Yuan, let's split up for now. Not immortal said. He chose to walk towards the front left where there were relatively more rule path Dao marks, since he cultivated rule path. Not long later, secret schemer also bade farewell, he chose to walk the path with more wisdom path Dao marks. Fang Yuan naturally could move in a straight line, but he did not do so, instead choosing to hide his skills. He carefully chose a path to walk. The two eccentrics saw this and had their own thoughts. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1864, O Fang Yuan, you are dead Maya. 1864 O Fang Yuan, you are dead Maya. Crazed Demon Cave's 7th layer was quite large, and it felt even more huge in not immortal and secret schemers' perception. Because they had to think carefully for every step they took while also enduring the conflict from countless Dao marks. The more they walked, the more difficult it became. This difficulty further widened the sense of distance they felt. Fang Yuan moved like a normal Gu immortal would for some time, while feeling some sympathy towards not immortal and secret schemer situation. If I didn't have the sovereign immortal body, I would have to choose a Dao mark path as well. But this Dao mark path will keep on becoming narrower, there are many choices at the start, but the deeper you go, the fewer choices you have. Fang Yuan walked for a while before stopping. His path was cut. The path ahead was filled with Dao marks of other paths. Fortunately, after passing this section, the path ahead had the Dao marks Fang Yuan selected. Fang Yuan discreetly glanced at not immortal and secret schemer. These two were already left behind by him and were walking with a lot of difficulty. Similarly, these two were also paying attention to Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan clenched his teeth as he continued to move forward. He pretended to be in a lot of difficulty, stopping at every step. After a while, he finally conquered the difficulty and once again walked the Dao mark path that suited him, his face revealing a relaxed expression again. These conflicting Dao marks are nothing to me. Instead, it is the acting that is more energy-consuming. Fang Yuan smiled bitterly in his mind. Not immortal and secret schemer glanced at each other from far away. Fang Yuan's strength was still above their current estimation. In that small section, although Fang Yuan moved with difficulty, his speed was still fast. Were not immortal to be in the same situation, he might have spewed blood. These two became slower the more they walked and even their hearts became heavier. The surrounding Dao marks pressured them constantly, making it very hard for them to move. Not immortal was already spitting blood while secret schemer's face looked yellowish purple. After a while, the two had no choice but to stop. They had reached their limits. Fang Yuan was still moving in front, his expression looked much more exhausted than before. But it was obvious he still had a lot of strength left. Fang Yuan is truly a monster. Sigh, he has many venerable inheritances, he is someone who has won against Heavenly Court repeatedly. It is not strange for him to have this achievement. Not immortal and secret schemer conversed secretly, they sighed while feeling helpless. Then, let's watch him from here. I want to see how far he can walk. Secret Schemer snorted coldly. Not Immortal hesitated for a moment before asking, do you think he can walk out of the 7th layer and enter the 8th layer? How is that even possible? Secret Schemer denied immediately, not even thinking of the possibility. But shortly after, he said with a heavy voice, this possibility is not high, there are at least tens of thousands of steps before someone can walk out of 7th layer. The distance we have walked currently is not even 10%. Fang Yuan is indeed powerful and is a rank 7 demon that seldom appears in 100 or even 1,000 years. But in the end, he is not at rank 8, I even feel that only a Venerable can get out of the 7th layer and enter the 8th layer. Venerable. Not Immortal thought and said, should we tell Fang Yuan of the clues that several Venerables came here? Yes. Secret Schemer nodded, wait till Fang Yuan reaches his limits, we will tell this information to him after we return. Secret Schemer witnessed Fang Yuan's strength and admitted Fang Yuan was stronger than him. Informing Fang Yuan of this information might spur Fang Yuan's fighting spirit and make him stay in Crazed Demon Cave, accompanying the 3 Crazed Demon eccentrics to break through this place together. Fang Yuan walked for a while before pausing slightly. This was the place where I saw Secret Schemer the previous time. Fang Yuan sized up his surroundings but did not see any traces. Back then, Fang Yuan remembered the Dao marks here were mainly of Metal Path and Earth Path, but it was completely different now. Fang Yuan was not surprised because the Dao marks in the 7th layer could transform. Every time the demonic sounds start from the 9th layer, they will spread to the 8th layer, then to the 7th layer, all the way to the 1st layer. When they reach the 1st layer, the demonic sounds would be sealed by a formless force, not spreading to the outside world and affecting other beings. Fang Yuan continued to walk forward. Secret Schemer and Not Immortal stopped on their spots, watching his receding figure from the distance. When Fang Yuan crossed Secret Schemer's furthest record, this Wisdom Path Gu Immortal's eyelids twitched. Despite him expecting this situation, when he saw this happen for real, he could not help feeling a deep sense of loss. I was surpassed. Secret Schemer heaved a deep sigh inwardly, I am the head of the 3 Crazed Demon eccentrics, the person who explored the furthest. I have lived here for hundreds of years and have engrossed myself in researching this place, I never expected to be surpassed by Fang Yuan so easily. Envy and even hatred, as well as anger towards himself, bitterness, sadness, and all kinds of emotions surged in his heart. Not Immortal's feelings were much better than Secret Schemer, after all he was the one with the worst performance among the 3 Crazed Demon eccentrics. Seeing Secret Schemer's expression, Not Immortal heaved a sigh and was about to comfort him when his expression changed suddenly. The demonic sound started. What's going on? Not Immortal was pale with fright. Secret Schemer was also horrified, how could the demonic sounds appear at this time? Not Immortal said, your previous deduction was correct, the demonic sound's timing is already messed up and we can no longer grasp its timing. Quick, let's retreat. This place is too dangerous. Secret Schemer's face was already perspiring with sweat, he shouted towards Fang Yuan, the demonic sound is here, retreat quickly. We can only be safe after exiting the 7th layer. Fang Yuan turned around to look at them too. These two no longer had the secluded cultivator demeanor of the 3 Crazed Demon eccentrics, they were panicking and were rapidly retreating. It doesn't look like they are trying to harm me. Fang Yuan frowned slightly. Not Immortal and Secret Schemer had no time to choose a path, they could only barely make out the correct direction and retreat towards the outside. The demonic sounds had just started and the Dao marks here were already restless. Even more terrifying was when the demonic sounds truly resonated, there would be a wild tsunami of Dao marks in the 7th layer. Immortal killer moves would immediately break upon activation. At this time period, even Duke Long would be in grave danger if he was here, he would be as weak as a baby and his death would be an unchangeable outcome. The 7th layer had already become a forbidden land that devoured everything, only a venerable might be able to contend it. The 2 eccentrics used all their methods and staked all their strength. They were spewing blood as they retreated. Quick, we are almost out of here. Secret Schemer's eyes shone with wild joy as he looked ahead. I cannot go on. Not Immortal crashed onto the ground. Secret Schemer said through clenched teeth, persevere. The two had a very close relationship. Secret Schemer disregarded the danger and carried the unconscious not immortal. At the moment of danger, his true nature was revealed. Secret Schemer kept on moving, finally charged out. His 7 orifices were bleeding, his face was pale and green, he was blacking out time and again, and he felt as if his whole body was weighed down by heavy lead. However, he did not dare to rest. The demonic sounds had just started, the 7th layer had become a dangerous zone and there was only hope for survival by returning to the 6th layer. The demonic sounds had begun to spread and the warning alarms were ringing louder and louder in Secret Schemer's mind. He clenched his teeth and exerted his final trace of strength to drag himself and the unconscious not immortal to the 6th layer. Wait, where is Fang Yuan? Before leaving the 7th layer, he took the risk to take a look behind. Wah! His eyes widened as if someone had struck the back of his eyes. He was stupefied. Fang Yuan had not retreated, but instead had moved even deeper. You. Secret Schemer could not make up any words in his agitated state. Fang Yuan heard the sound and turned around to look at him, smiling. It was already too late for me to retreat from where I was. But I have a life-saving secret technique, so I have a slim chance to survive. There is deadly danger in exploring here and I have already prepared myself mentally, so no worries. Secret Schemer, I hope we have the opportunity to meet again. Secret Schemer was silent. He wanted to say, "Oh Fang Yuan, you are dead meat," but was unable to speak it out. In the end, he said, "Fang Yuan, we will definitely meet again." These words had deep meaning. On one hand, he was encouraging Fang Yuan, hoping he could persevere and not give up trying. Maybe there was a hope for survival. On the other hand, he was also foretelling himself that as he continued to explore like this, he would be trapped in a situation like Fang Yuan sooner or later, and they would meet again in death. Fang Yuan ruminated and smiled. This Secret Schemer is indeed friendly and loyal. In the 500 years of his previous life, Secret Schemer was like this. He did not want to go out of Crazed Demon Cave, but Not Immortal and Pang Shan were pulled into the 5 regions chaotic war. To protect his companions, Secret Schemer left Crazed Demon Cave. Although he only had rank 7 cultivation, his wisdom path attainment was very deep. He became a huge problem for Central Continent and Heavenly Court. The 3 Crazed Demon eccentrics were secluded cultivators and did not have any blood relation, but their friendship was extremely deep, even surpassing many righteous path Gu immortals. A man is not a stalk of grass or a tree with no feelings. These 3 with a common goal lived together in seclusion for hundreds of years and helped each other. Their relationship had already reached the point of staking one's life for another. Fang Yuan looked at the swaying Dao marks ahead, his expression was calm and at ease. Even if these Dao marks formed into a tsunami from the turbulence, it had no effect on him. Sovereign immortal body, non-conflicting Dao marks. Fang Yuan was instead much more relaxed than before because Not Immortal and Secret Schemer had already left. He smiled lightly and walked forward with ease. He looked at the dazzling and grand Dao mark waves in front of him. This was truly the most extraordinary scene in the world. In the 5 regions and 2 heavens, there were many extraordinary sights. Some were majestic, some were elegant, some were mighty, some were exquisite. Including both his previous lives and the present life, Fang Yuan had almost traveled the whole world. His vision was broad, he had plenty of experiences and seen many extraordinary things. But right now, those magical scenes in his memories were all inferior to the waves of Dao marks in front of him. If I leave my inheritance in the future, I will definitely record this scene and pass it to the later generations. Fang Yuan thought. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1865, New Dao Mark, Venerable Paths. 1865 New Dao Mark, Venerable Paths. Crazed Demon Cave, 6th layer. The 2 heavily injured eccentrics were collapsed on the ground. Secret Schemer was kneeling and healing Not Immortal, disregarding his own injuries for the moment. Not Immortal slowly opened his eyes. He was dazed at first before coming to his senses shortly after as he thanked with great joy, "I actually escaped, leader, you saved me once again." He then asked in doubt, "Where is Fang Yuan?" Wait a second, he didn't retreat in time. Secret Schemer smiled bitterly, "No. He is still at the 7th layer. But, his parting words were right, it was already late for him to retreat from that distance. Not Immortal was astonished, and after a long while, he sighed, "This is life, who could have imagined that the mighty Fang Yuan would perish here?" Even though Fang Yuan's reputation was so illustrious, Not Immortal did not think he had much chance of survival. Because Not Immortal knew the terrifying might of Crazed Demon Cave. Secret Schemer had calmed down, his expression was a little bizarre. "It might be unbelievable, but I have a strange feeling that Fang Yuan can survive. Although my rationality tells me it is impossible and I also can't deduce any way for him to survive, I still have this feeling inside me." "Leader, you are a wisdom path Gu immortal." Not Immortal was also dazed. Does every feeling of a wisdom path Gu immortal have to be correct? Secret Schemer shook his head bitterly. "Maybe, this is only my hope for Fang Yuan. He is so strong, far stronger than us, the whole world is shaken by him and even Heavenly Court is unable to deal with him. But such a character is going to perish inside Crazed Demon Cave. Sigh, maybe his ending will be our ending in the future. I must be feeling empathetic." Not Immortal was silent. After a good while, Secret Schemer broke the silence. "Let's go. Let's retreat and rest properly. When the demonic sound stops completely, we will go to the 7th layer to search for Fang Yuan." Not Immortal nodded despite him knowing Fang Yuan had almost no chance of surviving. He stood up with difficulty but his body staggered and fell. Fortunately, Secret Schemer held him in time. Secret Schemer supported him and the two moved forward slowly while resisting the penetrating demonic sounds. The path ahead was covered in darkness. The two gradually merged into the darkness, both were moving while staggering. They were completely unaware that in the 7th layer, Fang Yuan was still alive and had even made a new discovery. "This is a new type of Dao mark." Fang Yuan's gaze brightened in surprise. In the dazzling Dao mark waves, he started to discover some brand new Dao marks. Fang Yuan was no longer the same as before, he had a great improvement in every path and had inherited several venerable true inheritances. His vision had broadened greatly. But right now, he was certain he had never seen this kind of Dao mark. This was a completely new Dao mark. These Dao marks were originally still, because they were too low in quantity and scattered everywhere, they were quite inconspicuous. But right now, due to the demonic sound, all kinds of Dao marks are in constant movement, and also because of the conflict of different Dao marks of similar paths are beginning to unite. This increased the size of these new Dao marks and made them easier to discover. Fang Yuan rapidly deduced the reason. When the demonic sounds had just started, all kinds of Dao marks were mixed and woven randomly, complex and colorful. After the demonic sounds had rang for a period of time, Dao marks of each path gathered together and formed a united color. It was much clearer and more magnificent than before. In front of Fang Yuan, metal path Dao marks were wriggling around like a giant golden python. On his left, the soul path Dao marks were even larger, they were like dark clouds as large as a city wall and were pushing forward grandly. Beside Fang Yuan's feet was that brand new Dao mark, it was like a brook that was flowing gently. Fang Yuan stopped and observed it carefully. Not long later, his face was filled with astonishment. From the new Dao mark, he saw blades and swords, he smelled axes and halberds, he felt hammers and spears, he heard darts and arrows. Fang Yuan's expression was solemn as he pondered, this new Dao mark represents a brand new path. This path is quite grand, it actually contains blades, swords, axes, halberds, and other weapons. If someone creates this path in the future, it will definitely encompass sword path and blade path. This new path's battle strength will be very strong, and it also clearly has many profundities of human path. But short after, Fang Yuan shook his head, however, who knows how many generations it will take and how long is needed to create this path. Maybe, someone has the thought and the foundation to create this path, if he or she can witness this scene, it will definitely be a huge help to him or her. Or perhaps, no one in the world will have this thought, this path will always be hidden like a treasure chest buried deep underground and there will never be anyone to open it. Fang Yuan did not have any feeling of regret. This situation was normal in the Gu world. There was a common saying, talent is often overlooked due to a lack of opportunity, everyone needs a scout to excavate their talent. In fact, an exceptional path needs talented people to unearth it. Fang Yuan did not want to use this to create a new path. He already had his hands full with the paths he cultivated. Moreover, creating a new path required an extremely huge amount of time and energy. He did not have such spare time. Fang Yuan continued moving forward. Along the way, he saw many new Dao marks. Some Dao marks had gathered into a ball, round and smooth. Fang Yuan seemed to smell light scent of grass from it, but when he smelled carefully, it felt like the aroma of food. Fang Yuan made a guess, was this the rumored pill path Dao mark? There was also a patch of Dao marks that were spread on the ground like a carpet. It was clearly a similar kind of Dao mark, but lights interwove on its surface to form mountains and rivers at times, and at times, form birds and animals. When other Dao marks came flooding, this patch of Dao marks became like leaves in the wind and flew away, lightly attaching onto the surface of the other Dao marks. It did not affect these foreign Dao marks, nor did its tiny self crumble apart. It was truly mystical. Fang Yuan's heart shook slightly the moment he saw this. If I am not wrong, these are painting path Dao marks. He had the intention to take these Dao marks. But the demonic sounds were ringing now and he had no method to capture the Dao marks. Fang clan has thieving heaven demon venerable's inheritance and that immortal Gu house thieves Denver. If I use it, can I steal the Dao marks here? Fang Yuan's heart was moved as he gained an inspiration. Immortal materials were common in Crazed Demon Cave, but they had no value at all. It was because the Dao marks in these immortal materials were chaotic and of every path. The immortal materials were useless but not the Dao marks. Fang Yuan used the plot against him to his own advantage and dealt with Fang Dichang. The current Fang Dichang was his clone. Fang Yuan had plundered almost all the information about Fang clan from Fang Dichang's soul. It naturally included Thieves' Den. This was indeed thieving heaven demon venerable's immortal Gu house, but it was very damaged because it involved theft path which Fang clan was not proficient in. When Fang clan obtained this immortal Gu house, they had not obtained its complete content, so they had not been able to restore it. The present Thieves' Den only had one ability, that was to use a theft path immortal materials as the catalyst. The theft path Dao marks in the immortal materials would be consumed instantly and the Dao marks in the outside world would be stolen. The stolen Dao marks would be attached to these theft path immortal materials. In the end, these immortal materials would be filled with disorderly Dao marks from every path and have no more value. This was similar to the situation in Crazed Demon Cave. Thieves' Den had the ability to steal the outside world's Dao marks but did not have the method to use them. This was the main reason Fang Yuan had not thought of seizing Thieves' Den. But this situation is different here. When these identical Dao marks gather together, I can use Thieves' Den to create immortal materials of the respective paths. These immortal materials would have identical Dao marks and should be usable. Fang Yuan's chest started to heat slightly at this thought. If this idea worked, then he would possess a channel to create endless rank 8 and even rank 9 immortal materials. How enormous was this wealth? Even Fang Yuan could not estimate it. The created immortal materials could not only be used in transactions and Gu refinement, they could also be used to comprehend the respective paths. For instance, using these new Dao marks to create painting path, pill path, and other paths immortal materials, these immortal materials were great reference for creating the corresponding path. But, similar Dao marks can only gather during the time when the demonic sounds appear. At this time, there is an extreme risk in activating immortal moves. The Dao marks of the immortal move can very likely turn chaotic because of the identical arrangement of the Dao marks, it would fail and lead to backlash. There is no need to talk of Thieves' Den, I might not even be able to bring it out. It is not the sovereign immortal body, it will suffer conflicting force if brought out and shatter. Fang Yuan calmed down. There were huge technical difficulties in completing his idea. His current foundation allowed him to look down on the world, but he still did not have any certainty. Fang Yuan let out a sigh and gave up on this thought for the moment, continuing to move forward. He began to move faster. No matter what the Dao marks ahead were, they were all harmless like a light breeze to him. Not long later, he saw dream path Dao marks. Crazed Demon Cave could be said to have all the different types of Dao marks, even Dream Path Dao marks were included. Fang Yuan stopped cautiously and probed before finding that the Dream Path Dao marks were similarly harmless to him. These were only Dao marks and not a dream realm. To the sovereign immortal body, it was just a kind of moving immortal material. If it were a dream realm, Fang Yuan would have to make a detour. Fang Yuan moved in a straight line, his path unimpeded. The ringing of the demonic sounds gave him some trouble. Fortunately, he had created an outstanding method. This killer move was specially created and could last for a long time when activated. Although with the disturbance of the demonic sounds, the long-term effect became short-term, everything was within Fang Yuan's tolerance range. Even if his mind was eroded by the demonic sounds and he went into a killing spree, this land had no beings that could threaten him. Even if he were to crash onto a boulder, the sovereign immortal body's constitution would guarantee his safety. There were irregular and turbulent multicolored waves in the surrounding. At times, they were like a huge tsunami, at times, they were like a group of running horses, at times, they were like a waterfall, and at times, they were like birds flying around. And Fang Yuan was moving in the middle of these. Were the three crazed demon eccentrics to see this scene, their jaws might drop from the shock. This was not toppling their common sense, this was directly shattering it. Fang Yuan moved deeper, reaching the depths that the three crazed demon eccentrics could not even imagine. When he finally reached the 8 layers entrance, he exclaimed lightly and paused. He actually saw 3 paths. One path was filled with golden light, luck surged around it. One path was dark and horrifying, killing intent filled it. One path was humble and plain, giving a virtuous aura. Fang Yuan's eyes shone as he understood, these 3 paths are probably the traces of past venerables. These paths are filled with luck path, soul path, and earth path Dao marks, they should belong to Giant Sun Immortal Venerable, Spectral Soul Demon Venerable, and Paradise Earth Immortal Venerable respectively. These 3 venerables had been here. The mighty demonic sounds and the chaotic Dao marks formed a horrifying situation. The might was so powerful that it could wipe out almost any Gu immortal without leaving even a trace behind. But the Dao marks in these 3 paths were incomparably firm. Even though all kinds of Dao mark currents were colliding, engulfing, and crashing into each other, the Dao marks in these 3 paths stood still. It was just that some Dao marks were peeled off at the very edges like they were residue or debris. Fang Yuan squinted his eyes slightly. He knew he possessed the sovereign immortal body which had non-conflicting Dao marks so he could come here, it was like he was cheating. But venerables were different. Dao marks of venerables conflicted, they could come here because they had charged forward forcefully. This was the supreme power of the 3 venerables. The 3 crazed demon eccentrics' talents and attainment levels were rarely seen in the world, but they still needed to look for a path to walk on. But venerables did not need to. Wherever they walked on was a supreme path in itself. Fang Yuan was not surprised at finding that venerables had come here, he had already somewhat predicted it, in fact. After all, Limitless Demon Venerable was a person of the olden antiquity era, the 3rd venerable in history after primordial origin and star constellation. His crazed demon cave had lasted to this day, although it was secluded. If the 3 crazed demon eccentrics could find this secret, what about others? As the supreme beings among Gu immortals, these venerables were terrifying existences. It was logical for them to discover this place. Only ignorant and naive youngsters would think that priceless inheritances, treasures and legacies that no one has ever discovered before would be found specially by them. Humans were ordinary, but every person was unique. If you could have such a fortuitous encounter, why couldn't others have it? But, why are there traces of only these 3 venerables? Why did the paths left behind by these 3 venerables only appear near the entrance of the 8th layer? There were some doubts in his mind, but Fang Yuan did not stop and jump through the 8th layer's entrance. The darkness in front of him passed in an instant, at the next moment, Fang Yuan landed on solid ground. How could this be? Fang Yuan was dumbstruck. Crazed Demon Cave's 8th layer showed a scene far surpassing his expectation, there was no similarity to the 7th layer at all. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know, report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1866, 8th Layer, Heaven Path. 1866 8th layer, Heaven Path. This was a vast grassland. Green grass, blue sky, and white clouds. There was no sun in the sky but it was bright. There were many beautiful wild flowers that were in full bloom. Strong flowery fragrance floated in the wind and brushed across Fang Yuan's face along with a light breeze. Fang Yuan was stupefied. This is Crazed Demon Cave's 8th layer. He was astonished. According to the 3 Crazed Demon eccentrics deduction, Crazed Demon Cave's last 3 layers should be the same as the 7th layer seen, with chaotic Dao marks everywhere. The 8th layer's Dao marks scale would definitely be bigger than the 7th layer's. And in the 9th layer was the immortal formation arranged by Limitless Demon Venerable. The core of this immortal formation was the legendary rank 9 Immortal Gu, derivation. But after Fang Yuan entered the 8th layer, he discovered this was actually a small world. Did I enter a blessed land? A thought surfaced in Fang Yuan's mind. But he denied this guess quickly. When he used investigative methods to inspect his surroundings, a subtle change appeared in his expression. This world doesn't seem ordinary, it is not a normal blessed land or grotto heaven. This world is a little, frail. Just as Fang Yuan was thinking, he heard a loud crackle. A giant tear spread in the sky like lightning, spanning across the whole land. At that instant, Fang Yuan's hairs stood on end as warning signals rang loudly in his mind. He felt an intense threat from this giant tear. He was certain that as long as he was touched, he would die. Even if he used reverse flow protection seal, he might only last for a few breaths of time. Fortunately, although the tear was extremely fast, it did not focus on Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan dodged with ease when he heard crackling sounds. This is the sound of a small world. It is crumbling apart and is about to perish. Fang Yuan sized up everything with a cold and aloof gaze. That giant tear was enlarging and spreading continuously. The small world seemed to be cut into 2 and would soon split completely. The blue sky, white clouds, grassland, and the flowers were all devoured by the tear. However, there was nothing in the tear, as if it was a peerless vicious beast that was in perpetual hunger. Fang Yuan's pupils shrunk slightly. This is Phantom Path strength, avoid tear. Seeing this, he quickly used his methods to hide himself. The tear spread towards him. Fang Yuan did not dodge and instead threw himself in. He entered the tear but did not suffer any destructive attack. When the void tear had just begun to spread, it was extremely dangerous. But after its might was spread, Fang Yuan was barely able to shelter himself inside. The small world was becoming smaller and smaller while the void tear was growing bigger and bigger. Fang Yuan flew higher up along the tear and soon left the boundaries of this small world, arriving at the outside world. This is. His body and mind shook at the sight. He was like a water bug that had suddenly arrived in a vast ocean. This ocean was the void. This void was vast and wide with no limits to its boundary. Fang Yuan was an extremely insignificant existence inside it. But he was not alone. Alongside him were countless worlds. These worlds were like multicolored air bubbles, some were just forming, some had grown firmly, and some were being destroyed. That small world Fang Yuan was in earlier was being destroyed. In just a short period of time, only 2 crescent-shaped fragments had remained of it. Fang Yuan's mouth opened slightly but was unable to say anything from the shock. He suddenly realized this was the true appearance of the 8th layer. The 7th layer had countless Dao marks while the 8th layer had an infinite void. And in this void, countless worlds were being born and destroyed. This. Fang Yuan caught a strange movement. The small world he was in earlier had already been destroyed completely, leaving behind only a long white thread. This thread could not be destroyed by even the void, it was extremely tenacious. It was a Dao mark. Although it was only a thread of Dao mark, it was extraordinary and twinkled with Dao mark light. What Dao mark is this? Fang Yuan had never seen this Dao mark and observed it with undivided attention. It was very obvious that this Dao mark was beyond extraordinary. Because that small world had its own heaven and earth, so it had space path, living beings moved, so it had time path, there were grasses and flowers, so it had wood path, there was land, so it had earth path, there were clouds, so it had cloud path. But these Dao marks no longer existed as they were destroyed by the void, only this translucent white thread-like Dao mark remained. From this Dao mark, Fang Yuan saw space path, sensed time path, tasted wood path, and felt cloud path. What path's Dao mark is this? It actually has a kind of all-inclusive capacity. Fang Yuan was confused, when he suddenly thought of an answer. I got it, this is heaven path. Dao marks of the heavenly Dao. He had felt strange when he moved in the 7th layer, he saw all kinds of Dao marks including dream path, as well as other completely new Dao marks. But there were 2 kinds of Dao marks missing. One was human path and the other was heaven path. Fang Yuan had seen human path Dao marks, but this was the first time he was seeing heaven path Dao marks. Other Dao marks are all destroyed, only heaven path Dao marks remain. What is this indicating? Fang Yuan stared rigidly at this heaven path Dao mark. The thread-like heaven path Dao mark seemed to be floating in the wind, it twinkled with dazzling white light, and its movement deeply attracted Fang Yuan's gaze. Fang Yuan was cautious and did not attempt to make a move on this Dao mark. He followed the Dao mark. After flying for a while, there was suddenly a strange change in the void ahead of him. Currents surged and a vortex formed instantly, swallowing this heaven path Dao mark. The Dao mark held on for a while in the void vortex before collapsing. At that instant, the void vortex was dyed in all kinds of colors, forming a multicolored rotating disc. The vortex rotated for a long while, and with a light sound, it suddenly burst. The void in this area resumed its calm. But a blue-white air bubble had suddenly appeared out of thin air. This air bubble was extremely small at first, only the size of Fang Yuan's little finger. But soon, it expanded rapidly. Fang Yuan used investigative methods to check and discover to his shock, this blue-white air bubble was a newly created small world. The land in this small world was expanding rapidly, the sky was spreading, everything was undergoing dramatic changes following some profound and mystical law. After dozens of breaths of time, this small world had already expanded to a size that Fang Yuan could enter. The small world's growth speed had slowed, everything was gradually stabilizing inside. Fang Yuan entered it. This small world was no longer like what he saw before. Clouds were drifting in the sky, islands were floating in the air, and countless huge green vines spread and interwove into a net that surrounded this world. It is the same heaven path Dao mark, but this small world's appearance has changed a lot. Fang Yuan's mind jolted, he was about to comprehend something but was not able to grasp onto it, like it was separated by a barrier. Fang Yuan had an intense premonition that as long as he grasped this inspiration and comprehended it, he could obtain a huge increase in strength. And this increase was a qualitative increase. So, he fixed his gaze on these small worlds, observing their birth and destruction. His body and mind was absorbed into it, he was completely obsessed, unable to free himself. Crazed Demon Cave's 7th layer derives Dao marks, and this 8th layer derives worlds. No, deriving worlds is only the superficial appearance, what it is actually doing is deriving heaven path Dao marks. Fang Yuan carefully observed, usually, after every round of a small world's birth and destruction, that heaven path Dao mark would grow by a bit. The situation was much more complex in reality. Sometimes, the void vortex absorbed not just 1 but 3 to 4 heaven path Dao marks together. After these heaven path Dao marks scatter, the small world that formed would be more vast and have deeper foundation, growing rapidly. But after its destruction, it would only leave behind 1 or at most 2 heaven path Dao marks. In terms of the total length, the length of the previous 3 to 4 heaven path Dao marks was no doubt greater than the length of the new Dao marks. Heaven path Dao marks can also be lost. Or maybe, the heaven path Dao marks that I have seen still haven't reached the standard that Limitless Demon Venerable wants. He wants to create heaven path Dao marks that match his expectations. If so, what kind of heaven path Dao marks did he want to create? Fang Yuan's mind jolted as he suddenly thought of the 3 Crazed Demon Eccentrics analysis. Limitless Demon Venerable wanted to pursue eternal life, so he settled in Crazed Demon Cave in his later years in search of the correct method. Limitless Demon Venerable wants to pursue eternal life, but the heavenly Tao does not permit it. U003CU003C The Legends of Renzo 003 EU003E states, Fate Gu determines that every being in the world must die and their soul has to return to the door of life and death. What was Fate Gu? Gu were the essence of heaven and earth. Fate Gu, in essence, was a fragment of heaven path. Limitless Demon Venerable wants eternal life, but he is unable to bypass the heavenly Tao. He realized this, so he directly targeted heaven path and researched it. Fang Yuan guessed. Limitless Demon Venerable had once attacked Heavenly Court, but he was not an otherworldly demon and was unable to destroy fate. But he did not give up, instead he worked even harder and advanced forward. He wanted to find out the reason he was unable to destroy Fate Gu and wanted to completely understand the truth of Heaven Path. Such ambition. Such methods. Even Fang Yuan could not help but feel admiration. So how do I collect these Heaven Path Tao marks? Fang Yuan was extremely troubled. He tried many methods but they were of no use. He even had a premonition, even if he brought out Thieves' Den right now, he would be unable to do anything to these Heaven Path Tao marks. Thieves' Den was only a rank 8 theft path immortal Gu house and was highly damaged at that. And this immortal formation was obviously rank 9, it was even personally constructed by Limitless Demon Venerable. I should directly take the immortal formation. Fang Yuan fell into another dilemma. Because he did not know how to reach the 9th layer. The path in the 7th layer was extremely clear, but at the 8th layer, Fang Yuan was in a boundless void without any signs and clues. How would he enter the 9th layer? Fang Yuan did not know what direction to choose. He could only drift aimlessly. Who knew how long had passed, he discovered a world. Until now, this is the largest world I have seen. But it looks like it is about to be destroyed. Let's take a look inside. Fang Yuan entered this world. We pay respects to the sage. This world actually had living creatures. When they saw Fang Yuan, they immediately kowtowed excitedly. Sage, did you come to create a Tao field to save this world? Sage, please take me in as your disciple. These living creatures had misty body with human shapes. They had noses and eyes and they talked without stopping. Sage. Fang Yuan frowned slightly before immediately realizing the huge meaning behind this. That means there are other sages like me? Yes. There was a sage who wore a green robe and white headband, there were lotuses blooming at his every step, he created the green lotus Tao field. Another sage was barefooted and wore yellow clothes, he was filled with compassion, he saved the yellow earth great world. There was also another sage with a ferocious appearance, he was tall and burly, countless beast roars could be heard from his every action. He created savage wilderness great world. These cloud people scrambled to inform Fang Yuan. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know, report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1867, Spyrai. 1867 Spyrai. Genesis Lotus Immortal Venerable, Paradise Earth Immortal Venerable, and Reckless Savage Demon Venerable. Fang Yuan's heart jolted. According to the descriptions of these misty human-shaped indigenous people, Fang Yuan quickly matched these 3 sages with 3 venerables in history. All kinds of thoughts flashed like lightning in Fang Yuan's mind, these 3 venerables came here. In the 7th layer, I also saw the Tao marks path left by Spectral Soul Demon Venerable, Paradise Earth Immortal Venerable, and Giant Sun Immortal Venerable, that means, at least 5 venerables have come here. Fang Yuan realized a little but was even more confused. When he saw the 3 venerables paths in the 7th layer, he had a doubt, only these 3 venerables came here? If other venerables came, why are there no paths created by them? Now, it looks like that although other venerables come here as well, like Reckless Savage and Genesis Lotus, even if they left behind their paths back then, they might have been destroyed by the passing of time. Limitless Demon Venerable was a venerable from 1,000,000 years ago during the Olden Antiquity era, after him came Reckless Savage and Red Lotus. In the Medieval Antiquity era, 300,000 years ago. Genesis Lotus, Thieving Heaven, and Giant Sun appeared in succession. Long Hair Ancestor appeared in this era as well. Because he was a hairy man, he lived for a long time and had worked with thieving heaven and giant sun. After medieval antiquity era was late antiquity era, 100,000 years ago from present. Spectral soul and paradise earth appeared in this era. After this era was the present age. The prophecy of three venerables stated that great dream immortal venerable would be born. She would be an unprecedented venerable who would surpass the 10 great venerables. Giant sun, spectral soul, and paradise earth left behind their paths in the 7th layer. The paths were actually the traces of them charging in. They were the most recent three venerables, so their Tao marks could exist until now. And the previous venerables, even if they left behind a Tao mark path, they were erased because of the passing of time. Fang Yuan's doubt was resolved, but he had even more questions now. Why did these venerables come one after the other? Crazed Demon Cave has way too much attraction to these people. Did these venerables go to the 9th layer after reaching here? The 9th layer's grand formation should still be working, so if these venerables went to the 9th layer, why didn't they destroy the formation and take away the rank 9 derivation Gu? If they did not reach the 9th layer and stopped in the 8th layer, why did they create their Tao fields or worlds? Fang Yuan pondered for a while and decided to go take a look at these venerables' worlds. He was unable to find the path to the 9th layer. When he was in the 7th layer, he had never imagined the 8th layer would have such a grand scene. Maybe he could find relevant clues in these venerables' Tao fields or worlds. Even if there were no relevant clues, even if these venerables did not enter the 9th layer, those worlds could very likely have their inheritances. Even if there was no true inheritance, as long as there was something left behind, even if it was something insignificant to the venerable, it would be a huge gain to Fang Yuan. This is interesting. Do you know where these Tao fields and worlds are? Fang Yuan asked. These several human-shaped mists shook their heads, expressing they did not know and had only heard of them. Sage, we live in this world and have no ability to go out. The outside is too dangerous, we cannot set foot in it. Fang Yuan frowned. Then how did you know this information? A human-shaped mist replied, every set interval of time, the disciples or students of these sages will cross the void and interact with the worlds, either making transactions or plundering. We obtained this information from them. Fang Yuan's pupils shrunk slightly. These disciples came from each generation's venerable. What is their strength? It should be extraordinary considering they are able to travel through the void into different worlds. But shortly after, Fang Yuan realized something wrong as he asked, since there are a lot of these disciples, why did you address me as sage the moment you saw me? A human-shaped mist replied, because all sages have an appearance like you, but their disciples are of all kinds of shapes. Fang Yuan immediately understood, so it seems there are no humans here, the so-called disciples or students of the sages are probably some other races. Like these human-shaped mist people. Come to speak of it, this was the first time he had seen these human-shaped mists. They were neither wild beasts nor plants, they were not variant humans as well, but they had vague human appearances. Sage, please save me. Sage, please make your arrangement and save this world. Several human-shaped mists kowtowed again. Sure, sure. Fang Yuan smiled as he attacked suddenly. Sage! What are you doing? Ah! Cries of shock and screams resounded in Fang Yuan's ears for a moment. In 2 breaths of time, Fang Yuan captured these human-shaped mist. His gaze towards these human-shaped mist shone with a captivating coldness. How could this information gained from just questioning be reliable? If these human-shaped mists wanted to deceive Fang Yuan, it would be too easy for them. While talking, Fang Yuan had secretly scanned most of the surroundings and immediately made his move at this moment. He then used soul search methods to inspect them. But the result was somewhat awkward. These human-shaped mists did not have a soul. Without a soul, could they still be considered living beings? Even plants had their own souls. Fang Yuan was dazed for a moment before realizing, it seems this small world has no soul path Tao mark, so the living beings here don't have souls. This was a new and interesting discovery. In the 5 regions and 2 heavens, all living beings had their own soul because of soul path Tao marks. These human-shaped mists, however, did not have any. It was somewhat difficult to search their memories now. But these problems were quickly subdued by Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan obtained all the information grasped by these human-shaped mists. From this information, he saw that these human-shaped mists did not deceive him. Their existence was monotonous. After they gained sentience, they always stayed here until this world was on the verge of destruction. Even if the sage's disciples had arrived here and transacted with them, it was only once. The time period was too short, and thus the nature of these human-shaped mists was also quite simple, with unworldly mindsets. Fang Yuan also discovered these human-shaped mists were not an individual entity but were a part of this world. They could not leave this world. These human-shaped mists are quite similar to land spirits and heavenly spirits. A sudden light of inspiration flashed past Fang Yuan's mind. Land spirits and heavenly spirits were formed from the fusion of obsession of the Gu immortal and heavenly power. They also did not have souls, but they were sentient and could undergo transactions. In fact, not only land spirits and heavenly spirits, Fang Yuan also had the formation spirit and dragon spirit. The formation spirit was born from formation spirit Gu, while the dragon spirit was a secret creation of the Dragonman race. Does this mean these human-shaped mists are the embryonic forms of land spirits and heavenly spirits? If I can understand their profundities, can I mass-produce land spirits and heavenly spirits? Fang Yuan's gaze brightened as he saw the most valuable gain. However, after about half a day, he looked at this world's destruction with regret. He really wanted to comprehend the mysteries of the birth of these human-shaped mists, but he did not have enough worlds. He had just begun his research and had made a little gain when this world was destroyed. No matter, I can continue to search. This kind of world, although rare, still exists. If I can find the Tao fields of those venerables, that would be even better. Thereupon, Fang Yuan began to travel through the void and searched everywhere for valuable targets. Puff! Pang Shan coughed out a mouthful of blood and took a step back. He was huge, and this one step firmly stamped on the ground, producing a huge sound. If it were ordinary ground, there would be a deep crater, but in this seventh layer, every inch of soil was a quasi-rank 9 immortal material. They were extremely solid. I didn't find any traces of Fang Yuan. Pang Shan said while wiping off the bloodstains on the corner of his lips. Not Immortal was silent. Secret Schemer sighed. The three crazed demon eccentrics had gathered together now. They were split before as a precaution against Fang Yuan, but now after the demonic sounds ended, they immediately reunited. On one hand, they felt even if Fang Yuan was alive, he would be at his last breath and could never be a threat. On the other hand, they wanted to use their greatest effort to save Fang Yuan. Gu Immortal's injuries were often very troublesome and difficult to heal. Not Immortal and Secret Schemer were injured, only Pang Shan had been completely fine, but he was also injured now. It was a bad idea to use investigative killer moves in the seventh layer. The Tao marks here were too concentrated, almost like a battlefield killer move. The conflicting Tao marks made it hostile to all the paths. Pang Shan's investigative range was extremely limited because the Tao marks that suited his path was only a small portion among all the Tao marks here. I know what the seventh layer looks like when the demonic sounds start. Brothers, let it be. Fang Yuan's hope is. Pang Shan slowly shook his head. Who could have expected Fang Yuan to die like this? Not Immortal heaved a sigh. Secret Schemer also felt extreme regret. They did not have any feeling of having gotten rid of evil. Their life goal was simple and similar. They wanted to explore the ninth layer and grasp the derivation formation to thus search for a certain possibility of eternal life. Fang Yuan's main body did not come out of the eighth layer even after a long time, and his clones were getting nervous. Fang Clan Headquarters. Divine Beam Palace floated in the air, letting out dazzling jade light. Right now, Fang Clan's first Supreme Elder Fang Gong, third Supreme Elder Fang Huasheng, as well as Fang Lang and Fang Yun were watching the place from far away. The jade light transformed suddenly, changing into countless lightning spheres that exploded in the surroundings. Rumble. A chain of explosions sent soil and rocks flying everywhere and created hurricanes. After the explosions ended, green grass started growing in the sunken and pit-filled ground while young trees started growing at a visible speed, their roots piercing into the soil as they grew into gigantic trees. This was Divine Beam Palace's killer move, Myriad Life Spring Lightning. This killer move was activated smoothly, signifying that Fang Dichang had control over Divine Bean Palace. The palace door opened and Fang Yuan's clone Fang Dichang walked out with a smile. Good. Fang Gong laughed heartily. Second Elder, you have made a huge contribution. Although this was somewhat worrying for the balance of the internal factions of Fang clan, it was undoubtedly very good news for the whole clan. With this palace, our Fang clan can break through our predicament and rise up for real. Fang Yun exclaimed jubilantly. Fang Dichang smiled, with this palace, we can no longer be taken down. But there is no hurry, there are still some areas that can be improved in Divine Bean Palace. The most important Divine Bean soldiers have to be prepared beforehand. No worries, you can take any amount of wood path immortal materials you require from the treasury. Fang Gong laughed once again, his joy was truthfully coming from his heart. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1868, Respective Progress. 1868 Respective Progress. This was a barren land with gray-white soil. The land was dry with many gullies, it had no fertility and not even a blade of grass grew on it. Fang Dichang looked at this vast land and scattered yellow jade bean seeds. Divine Bean Palace stored many bean seeds, it mainly consisted of yellow jade bean seeds, green jade bean seeds, red jade bean seeds, and black jade bean seeds. Besides them, there were also the rather special blue pea seeds and white frost broad bean seeds. After these bean seeds were planted and cared for a period of time, they grew into all kinds of Divine Bean soldiers. Divine Bean Palace's trump card, Divine Bean Soldier, was not an instant killer move, it required a long period of time before they could form into a sizable number with powerful might. It was because of this that when Chen Yi suppressed Qing Chou back then and used Karma Divine Tree to influence Divine Bean Palace to fight against Fang Clan, he was unable to use this move. Chen Yi could only use soul beasts as a replacement. Fang Dichang was currently planting yellow jade bean seeds. This was the most basic type of seed among all the bean seeds. After they were planted, they grew into yellow bean divine soldiers. Right now, yellow jade bean seeds were already scattered here. Fang Dichang activated Divine Bean Palace, gale blew immediately and formless wind condensed into light green hose. The hose began hoeing the ground. After a while, Fang Dichang waved his hand again, rain started to fall from the sky. The amount of rain needed to be specific, it could not be too much or too little. It mainly had to moisten this dry land. The land was moistened, yellow jade bean seeds began to experience a mystical change. But this change was quite slow. Fang Yuan's clone activated another method. The moment the killer move was activated, the land began flickering with emerald green waves of light that constantly washed the yellow jade bean seeds in the ground like tides. When the yellow jade bean seeds absorbed these emerald green waves, their growth speed rose explosively, they sprouted out of the ground and grew firmly. According to this speed, yellow bean divine soldiers will sprout after a day and a night. Fang Yuan's clone nodded, satisfied. At his will, he suddenly moved back into the main hall of Divine Bean Palace. He took a glance at the mural on the wall and saw a change. The mural had been of a dry land, but at this moment, a small portion of the land was filled with bean sprouts. This is a method of painting path. Divine Bean Palace contains painting path immortal Gu, the land in the mural is not illusory. This is such an amazing method. Planting bean sprouts in this painting can grow divine bean soldiers. After they are constantly taken care of and mature, these divine bean soldiers will leave the mural and arrive in the main hall. The land is extremely barren, but it is not a big issue. Not much fertility is required for planting beans, and as beans are planted more often in the future, the fertility of the land in the mural can increase and the soil itself will become a type of an immortal material. The expenditure includes water path immortal materials and wood path immortal materials. The former was used to moisten the soil while the latter could increase the growth speed of the bean seeds. The immortal materials were all stored inside Divine Bean Palace. Fang Yuan's 2 killer moves were activated by expending the stored immortal materials. This effect is quite good, but the price is also significant. Fortunately, I don't need to worry about this and can report the expenses to Fang clan. Fang Dichang smiled. Divine Bean Palace had already become Fang Yuan's possession. Fang clan was kept in the dark and was even helping Fang Yuan in providing resources to cultivate Divine Bean soldiers. In the depths of Eastern Sea. Gu tribe headquarters. That will do. Fang Yuan's clone Wu Shuai slowly stopped the killer move, his forehead filled with sweat. In front of him was another batch of new dragonmen. But these new dragonmen were not just former beast men, there were also some mermen. Many thanks to Lord Wu Shuai for your help, this is my tribe's gift of thanks, please accept it, senior. A merman Gu immortal swayed his tail and slowly floated to Wu Shuai, gifting an immortal material with both hands. This immortal material was a lump of water that emitted a putrid smell. It was restrained to a lump by the merman Gu immortal's killer move. Although the merman's hands were shaking, this water lump did not move like it was frozen. So it is unmoving rotten water. It just so happens that I need it to raise army ants, I will accept it. I appreciate the gift. Wu Shuai accepted it directly. He wanted to raise arrow ants, which needed unmoving rotten water. Ever since he started raising army ants, they were expanding with a horrifying speed. Other than Fang Yuan investing massive amounts of his resources into this, Gu tribe and the mermen had also helped greatly. Naturally, Fang Yuan's clone did not extort them but obtained the resources from transactions. Wu Shuai used his killer move to convert beastmen and mermen into new dragonmen as a repayment. My strength is increasing rapidly every day, the changes are very obvious. Interacting with Gu tribe has proven to be quite good, I even have a connection with the merman race now. Adding on the influence of Qi Si ancestor, I have an increasingly deep control over Eastern Sea's Gu immortal world. Eastern Sea's Merman Imperial Court was a superforce with deep foundations. This was the sole variant human superforce in the world, it received Paradise Earth Immortal Venerable's help and was able to develop and continue to exist until now. Even so, merfolk were under huge pressure from everywhere. Previously, their situation was already unsteady from the suppression of Eastern Sea's human forces. Now that 5 regions' chaotic war was about to start, the wise people among merfolk began to search everywhere for a survival route for their race. Once the 5 regions' chaotic war starts, the previous fragile balance would definitely collapse. The merman race's future was bleak, as a variant human race, they would definitely become the first target for human forces. A portion of the merfolk saw the growth prospect of dragon men and did not hesitate on changing their identities. This was because the higher-ups of the Merman Imperial Court had always been helping Gu tribe in secret to conceal their traces. They had learned of the Dragonman's secret of the past from Gu tribe. After knowing that Fate Gu had revealed that Dragonmen reigned supreme, a portion of merfolk higher-ups brought up this idea. This was the reason for the merfolk to convert to Dragonmen. The Merman Imperial Court has already begun investing everywhere for the survival of their tribe. Human forces have also foreseen the chaotic era in the future, they are especially wary against Heavenly Court, I can exploit this wariness. Maybe I can persuade the Merman race to dispatch some merfolk Gu immortals to participate in the war when Heavenly Court restores Fate Gu. Wu Shuai's head was filled with such secretive thoughts. Beast Calamity Grotto Heaven. The situation was extremely dangerous and permitted no delay. Little Du, you really want to do this? Mountain Cliff City Lord worriedly looked at Fang Yuan's clone Zhan Budu. Zhan Budu raised his head, his eyes shining brightly and his tone firm, yes, master. You are heavily injured, and in this situation, we cannot beat that monster. But if we let it run amok, Mountain Cliff City will be completely destroyed. Who knows how many people will die? I can only take the risk to make a breakthrough, as long as I become a combat beast warrior, I can display the complete strength of the arrow-tail eagle and get rid of this detestable monster. Mountain Cliff City Lord looked at Zhan Budu for a long while, knowing his beloved disciple had already made up his mind and that his persuasion would have no effect. He waved his hand, sigh, go then. Zhan Budu did not hesitate, immediately leaving to begin his immortal ascension. Mountain Cliff City Lord and others watched him nervously, countless ordinary people were kneeling on the ground and praying silently, cheering on Xianxia Du. Many combat beast envoys were staking their lives to delay the monster. What made them joyous was that the giant monster might be tired, its attacks slowed down. This was actually the secret manipulation of Xianxia Du. The current situation was also a plan that had already been determined before. I have a portion of my main body's memories and foundation, my immortal ascension is practically a certainty. But I still need to act like I am taking a risk, not only to deceive everyone in Mountain Cliff City but also this Grotto Heaven's heavenly spirit. The whole process was filled with ups and downs, causing Mountain Cliff City Lord and others to feel their hearts jump. But the outcome was without any mishaps. Xianxia Du finally advanced to an immortal, becoming a combat beast warrior. Xianxia Du then showed his mighty prowess as he defeated the monster. Wow! Little Du is so powerful. Little Du, you saved the lives of the whole city, we really don't know what to say. As expected of our little savior, Little Du. Little Du, you might be the youngest combat beast warrior in history. People surrounded Xianxia Du and lifted him up, tossing him into the sky and catching him. Xianxia Du became a hero in the hearts of everyone in the city, he had unmatched reputation right now. Aside from the crowd, the injured Mountain Cliff City Lord looked at this with satisfaction, a sincere smile showing on his face. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know, report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1869, Main Body, S Breakthrough. 1869 Main Body, S Breakthrough. The 8th layer of Crazed Demon Cave was much more vast than Fang Yuan's expectations. After he learned there were venerable Dao fields here, he began searching for a long while but he did not get any good results. Fang Yuan saw the creation and destruction of many worlds and also entered some large worlds, but was unable to find venerable Dao fields. But he was not without any gains. These days of searching deepened his understanding of the 8th layer. There is no such concept as direction in this void, like up, down, left, or right, so it is both finite and infinite. The 8th layer had only been a cave originally, but after limitless demon venerables arrangements, it became a boundless area. Perhaps, I am only moving in a small circle over these days. In fact, I might not be able to find venerable Dao fields without comprehending the arrangements here. Fang Yuan guessed. To find his destination in this void, Fang Yuan no doubt needed to raise his Phantom Path attainment level. Phantom Path was only a minor path, derived from Rule Path. However, this minor path had quite an achievement. Phantom Path focused on the illusory and reality, if one could not be hit, they could not lose. Turning Phantom was the signature method of Phantom Path. When Heaven Overseeing Tower had turned into Phantom, it had been extremely secure with no methods able to deal any harm to it besides Dream Path. Phantom Path also had supreme profundities, just like how one of Soul Path's supreme profundities was to cultivate 100 million desolate soul, like Spectral Soul's 3-headed 1,000 arms demon soul. Transformation Path had 2 supreme profundities, one was to undergo myriad changes as one willed, the other was to gather the power of all paths into one, like myriad beings assimilation transformation. Heavenly Court's members offered their own immortal apertures, and whenever they left Heavenly Court, they would be given a phantom aperture for storing immortal essence, immortal goo, and other resources. This phantom aperture was a supreme profundity of Phantom Path. And presently, Fang Yuan was in this void where countless worlds were created and destroyed. Obviously, this void was also a supreme profundity of Phantom Path. Although Phantom Path was only a sub-branch of Rule Path, advancing Phantom Path attainment level was essentially still Rule Path true meaning. But this path held profound depth, just based on Fang Yuan's current Rule Path Great Grandmaster attainment level, there was still some distance before he could comprehend this void. Since he was unable to break through directly, Fang Yuan considered for a while and decided to try from another angle. He willed it and activated Cooking Luck Pot, blessing himself with Luck Path might be able to create a breakthrough. Although Cooking Luck Pot's level was rather low and unable to completely influence the main body's luck, it was still able to change a portion. At least, Fang Yuan could casually change the luck inside Cooking Luck Pot. With Cooking Luck Pot, changing his luck was extremely quick and convenient, and Fang Yuan soon completed it. He inspected his clone's luck. His time path clone's luck was still the same like before. A miniature river of time-like luck was flowing gently while glistening beautifully. When inspected carefully, there were traces of black qi forming and accumulating continuously on the surface of the river. Fang Yuan's dream path clone had the smallest luck. After all, it only had rank 5 Gu master cultivation and its aperture was even sealed. The grandest was clone Wu Shuai's. Wu Shuai was already a peak rank 7 Gu immortal, had obtained Dragon Palace, and was currently cultivating army ants. Right now, Wu Shuai's luck was like a roaming dragon with glistening dragon scales and dragon eyes, and sharp horns and claws. There were waves of light blue water halo around the dragon luck and the dragon contacted the water. This meant he had obtained external help, Gu tribe and merfolk. And there was a giant dragon pearl in the dragon's mouth. The dragon pearl contained a palace. It was actually a shrunken image of Dragon Palace. Another dragon pearl with a much smaller size was held by a dragon claw. This dragon pearl contained densely packed ants, representing army ants. The second biggest luck was of clone Fang Dichang's. His luck was rather special. It was like a giant tree. Its trunk was not thin but was also not extremely thick. The tree crown was verdant and stacked ingeniously to form Divine Bean Palace's shape. Below the ground, the tree roots were tangled with many of them exposed outside the ground. This implied countless ties of Fang Dichang and Fang clan, an unbreakable deep connection. Besides these were Zhan Budu's and Li Xiaobai's luck. Zhan Budu's luck was much bigger than Li Xiaobai's. It was like a strong eagle spreading its wings to fly high. Zhan Budu had just recently become a rank 6 Gu immortal while Li Xiaobai was still at Gu master level. Li Xiaobai's luck was like a flower in full bloom. There was even a thin layer of nectar in the stamens. This layer of nectar was the result of Li Xiaobai's hard effort in cultivating in this period of time. Outside the flower luck was a butterfly, white as snow. It flapped its large wings and blew cold wind while softly drifting towards the flower. This luck indication. Fang Yuan's brows slightly furrowed. Butterfly usually indicates female. It wants to collect the nectar and is also giving rise to cold wind, which means it is of no benefit to the flower. From their size, the butterfly is slightly larger than the flower. The cold wind, however, is vast and powerful. It represents a certain large trend. More importantly, the main element is not the butterfly is only a prologue. Li Xiaobai's situation is currently good, but the future doesn't look that bright. If there is an unexpected mishap and the cold wind descends, the flower will wither. But the butterfly is so close to the flower, which indicates a fortuitous encounter. Clone Li Xiaobai was all along trying to conquer profound literature Grotto Heaven, but this Grotto Heaven was different from Beast Calamity Grotto Heaven because a rank 8 Gu immortal guarded it. Fang Yuan could not use his strength freely like in Beast Calamity Grotto Heaven. In Beast Calamity Grotto Heaven, Fang Yuan was free to use strategies and make all kinds of arrangements. But in Profound Literature Grotto Heaven, his hands were tied, and to preserve the greatest result and benefits, he could not use most of his methods. As such, support in the luck aspect became the biggest help that Fang Yuan's main body could give to Li Xiaobai. On the spot, Fang Yuan mobilized Cooking Luck Pot to change Li Xiaobai's luck. After a while, Li Xiaobai's flower luck became beautiful red like peach blossom in spring. It was peach blossom luck. TL note, peach blossom luck is commonly used to describe a relationship or marital affair. Transforming luck was not random but followed a certain rule. For instance, after Li Xiaobai's luck transformed into peach blossom luck, there was double the efficiency as it ingeniously interacted with the butterfly. It will now depend on the clone if he can grasp the opportunity. Fang Yuan continued to move forward. Luck was only a kind of a variable. When the true opportunity arrives, it still depends on the person themselves, on whether they had the ability to grasp it or not. Fang Yuan's brows jumped. He made a joyous discovery not long after modifying his luck. He saw a giant floating fish. It was traveling in the void while swaying its large tail. Its speed looked slow but it was actually frighteningly fast. This was the first time Fang Yuan had seen a living being that could roam the void and escape the world. This is probably a sage disciple that human-shaped mist mentioned. Fang Yuan gave chase. That gray fish looked like a goldfish. After it saw Fang Yuan, it was extremely shocked and kowtowed quickly. Yellow Earth Sage's disciple Little Flower pays respects to Sage. The giant gray fish's size was comparable to a whale, but it made a human sound, and it was a young girl's voice. Good, good. I have been searching for Yellow Earth Dao Field for a long while. Lead the way. You will gain benefits as well. Fang Yuan laughed. But the giant gray fish shook its head. Sage, it is not that I don't want to help you, but I am unable to find the location of Yellow Earth Dao Field. What? You were banished? Fang Yuan frowned. The giant gray fish shook its head again. No, no. My cultivation reached a barrier. I bade farewell to my fellow disciples and left Yellow Earth Grand World to travel outside and train myself to make a breakthrough. As it said this, the giant gray fish's eyes looked at Fang Yuan with hope. If this sage enlightened it, its barrier would be nothing. But was Fang Yuan that kind of person? He was not willing to engage in any further talk as he immediately imprisoned this giant gray fish and wantonly searched its memories. So it was like this. Although these venerable Dao fields exist forever, they are always moving. The giant gray fish was born in Yellow Earth Dao Field. Fang Yuan saw the rich scene of this world from its memories. Yellow Earth Dao Field was vast, not the least bit inferior to even the sovereign immortal aperture. There was a dense amount of Earth Path Dao marks with a good amount of other Dao marks as well. Its immortal material treasury was abundant and had many Gu worms, including immortal Gu. There were also all kinds of living beings. Although there were no humans, it was truly a land of treasures. Even Fang Yuan with his current assets coveted this Yellow Earth Dao Field. If I can obtain the Yellow Earth Dao Field and devour it completely, my assets will increase by at least 3 times. Fang Yuan was refining immortal Gu on a large scale. The expenditure was huge and had already consumed most of his resources. His immortal material reserve had already shrunken to a serious level. If he could obtain the Yellow Earth Dao Field, it would definitely be a huge replenishment, like a skinny guy becoming obese in an instant. However, it was difficult to reach the Yellow Earth Dao Field. There were all kinds of beings in Yellow Earth Dao Field, and when Paradise Earth Immortal Venerable had arranged it back then, he taught everyone with no discrimination. All these living beings possessed souls, and because Paradise Earth Immortal Venerable had left Gu cultivation method, most of the living beings possessed apertures and had started Gu master cultivation. The outstanding ones among them even advanced to Gu immortal level, although the numbers were few. And there were elites among these Gu immortals as well. These elites had the ability to leave the world, and when they encountered a barrier and were unable to advance further, they would leave the Dao field and travel everywhere to train themselves. When they left the Dao field and were in the void, they had no way to find the way back home. But they did not have to worry. When they have the opportunity and break through their barrier, they would see the Dao field and be able to return smoothly. This was all the information Fang Yuan obtained from the giant gray fish. This giant gray fish looked like it was easily captured by Fang Yuan, but it possessed rank 7 cultivation and was an elite Gu immortal in the Yellow Earth Dao field. Fang Yuan frowned even more tightly. He deduced even more information. When the opportunity comes, they can return to the Dao field naturally. This is a saying passed down in Yellow Earth Dao field. Moreover, in the memories of the giant gray fish, many of its seniors returned like this. Looks like Yellow Earth Dao field itself possesses the ability to respond to these beings that have gone outside. Every interval of time, the Gu immortal elites of Yellow Earth Dao field will go out to train themselves, and when their training is accomplished, the Dao field will pick them up. Why was this arranged? There was an answer in the giant gray fish's memories. This was because Dao fields did not coexist peacefully, there were wars between them. The living beings nurtured by the Dao fields fought each other and tried to invade each other's Dao field. Back then, the Venerables probably made this arrangement when they created the Dao fields. But what benefits are there in these beings fighting each other? What goal did the Venerables have? Fang Yuan shook his head. He might only be able to get the answers when he entered a venerable Dao field. Fang Yuan's gaze landed on the giant gray fish. He smiled. Didn't you want me to enlighten you? Meeting me is your fortune. The giant gray fish trembled, it stammered but was unable to say anything. It was frightened by Fang Yuan. Although it had not been long since it came into contact with Fang Yuan, the giant gray fish was deeply aware that the sage before it was extremely terrifying and possessed a cruel and indifferent demonic nature. He was absolutely not a good person like the Yellow Earth Sage. Running into him was truly its misfortune. Alright, even if you don't speak, I know your questions. Fang Yuan had searched all the memories of the giant gray fish and was clear of what its barrier was. He immediately guided it in concise and easy to understand words. The giant gray fish's body stopped shaking gradually as it was immersed in Fang Yuan's words, temporarily forgetting its predicament. Why is there still no breakthrough? Fang Yuan frowned, he had spoken till his mouth was dry. The giant gray fish was still muddled. Although it had intelligence, it was not equivalent to a human. Fang Yuan was patient as he continued to teach it. By helping the giant gray fish break through its barrier, he might be able to trigger a response from the Yellow Earth Dao field. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1870, I will take responsibility. Chapter 1870 I will take responsibility. Profound Litef. Retour Grotto Heaven. A warship with 5 decks was moving on a large river flowing towards the east. The Jade River spans across the land, reflecting the red jade heart of people. It is hard to imagine the unrivaled talent of Emperor Gu Wen. He could actually write such a verse when he was just 7 years old. Su Qihan sighed while gazing at the vast river. She was the current imperial minister's daughter. She was graceful, beautiful, cultured, and elegant. Besides her beauty, she was most praised for her literary talent. Her mind was filled with poems and had a good knowledge of the historical records, putting most men to shame. Young miss, wind has started blowing, you need to be careful of catching a cold. How about we return to the room? Her maid urged. Su Qihan sighed but still stood behind the ship railings and watched the flowing river. The maid persisted, young miss, are you worried about the journey? Wasn't that thief forced away by you? We have already selected 8 of the 10 great scholars, can't we just choose the next 2 casually? Su Qihan shook her head, you don't understand. Choosing the 10 great scholars is not just an imperial edict but also concerns my Su clan's prosperity. The maid curled her lips, young miss, I don't understand these imperial laws but you must take your medicine now. Su Qihan smiled bitterly, what effect can common herbal medicine have on my injuries? It is just to comfort myself, it doesn't matter even if I drink it. The maid stomped her foot, young miss, don't try to deceive me. This herbal medicine has no effect on your injuries, but you've always been weak to the cold since you were a child, if you do not drink this warm medicine, your lungs might get damaged. So, you must drink this medicine. Alright, bring it over. Su Qihan was helpless against her personal maid, she took the bowl and finished it all. She had just finished drinking when she heard a wild laugh. Soon after, a figure jumped out of the water and landed on the deck. Who is it? That thief again. The ship guards moved immediately and surrounded the person. But this person was very strong, after a chaotic battle, the guards ended up lying on the ground. You are not his match, retreat for now. Su Qihan's expression was solemn as she moved to the front and prepared to fight. The person had an ugly and ferocious-looking face, he had a large and broad body with his skin having a color of bluish-black like a shark, this was the result of using shark skin goo. Miss Su. He greeted with a wide smile, revealing his sharp teeth which made him look even more ferocious. Su Qihan smiled coldly, Shark Bandit, you lost to me not long ago, was that lesson not enough? You still dare to come back? Shark Bandit laughed sinisterly, Lady Su, I am not your match but that was before you drank that medicine. Don't you feel your limbs becoming numb? Su Qihan's expression changed immediately. The medicine was tampered with? She looked towards her personal maid. The maid quickly shook her head, her face pale as paper, impossible. The medicine had always been in my sight. Young miss, you must believe me. The medicine, cough cough, has no issue. Cough, cough, but the herbs have, cough, been tampered with. Right at this moment, an uninvited guest climbed the ship rails and stepped on the deck. Su Qihan's brows furrowed tightly, her heart sinking to rock bottom. Medicine Demon, you are still alive. Medicine Demon looked like an elderly man, but he was actually only in his 20s. He cultivated poison path and blindly pursued strength, causing him to suffer a backlash which made his whole body aged, internally and externally. Medicine Demon's eyes showed deep hatred. All thanks to your elder cousin, I won't live for long. But being able to have a taste of Lady Su's body before I die will be worth it. Su Qihan's expression paled as she took a step back. What drug did you give me? She felt her whole body beginning to turn numb. Medicine Demon laughed loudly. Naturally, the strongest aphrodisiac. It can make the most chaste girl into the most lewd and obscene slut. Before he even finished speaking, Shark Bandit pounced forward. Boom boom boom. Sounds of explosions rang as Su Qihan was forced to retreat again and again. Young miss, leave quickly, I will hold them back. At the crucial moment, the maid stood out and sacrificed herself to stall for time for Su Qihan. Su Qihan fell into deep hesitation. Young miss, leave quickly. The maid activated a forbidden technique, her battle strength rose explosively, but the outcome would be her certain death. Su Qihan cried as she jumped out and ran across the water. Shark Bandit, Medicine Demon, I will never forgive you. The Imperial Court will also execute your 9 generations. In a pavilion by the river. There were 2 people. One was Fang Yuan's clone Li Xiaobai, the other was his master, Teacher Jiang. Teacher Jiang gazed at the scene of the river in the night and said to Li Xiaobai, come, write a poem and recite it to me. You have 10 steps of time. The 10 steps referred to the time taken by a normal person to walk 10 steps. Li Xiaobai's talent was not as good as the main body's, but through this period of painstaking effort and training, there was huge progress and he was able to immediately recite 2 lines. After a while of thinking, he added another 2 lines. Teacher Jiang was silent for a while before shaking his head. Little Bai, you have made huge progress during this time, but with your talent, you are still lacking to fight for the position of a great scholar. Teacher, I know poem composition within 10 steps is Emperor Gu Wen's test. Emperor Gu Wen created the scholar selection test. The Imperial Court will choose 10 great scholars every 20 years. This poem composition within 10 steps is the first test for the scholar selection. I have already passed it, teacher, why do you not recommend me to participate in the selection? Li Xiaobai asked in confusion. Teacher Jiang turned around and looked at his favorite student, speaking with a smile, Little Bai, you don't know the whole situation. The 10 great scholars selection looks like a glorious competition on the surface, but it is in actuality a competition to cultivate future Imperial Court officials. Teacher, you are talking about immortal ascension? Li Xiaobai was astonished. Li Xiaobai was only acting, naturally. In fact, he already knew about everything. Fang Yuan's heaven form killer move was a powerful method to inspect grotto heavens. Even if profound literature grotto heaven had a rank 8 Gu immortal guarding it, it was helpless against the constant inspection by heaven form from outside the grotto heaven. In this profound literature grotto heaven, information path was the main path. Every time a Gu master wrote a great literary piece, they would be rewarded by the grotto heaven. Originally, this grotto heaven was filled with many individual forces, with Gu immortals establishing independent territories. But later, someone called Emperor Gu Wen appeared. This person's natural aptitude was extremely high and had unsurpassed talent. He became a Gu immortal at a frightening speed. Later, he made a move against other Gu immortals, either killing them or making them submit. He created the Imperial Court and put the whole grotto heaven under his rule. In his latter years, he created 10 great scholars selection to choose the most outstanding talents in the whole world, giving them honor and titles. The Imperial Court selected suitable people among these scholars and recruited them, giving them resources and raising them to Gu immortals, before appointing them as officials. As such, the Imperial Court was the strongest super force in profound literature grotto heaven. Every high-ranking official was a Gu immortal with no exception. The current emperor naturally was also a Gu immortal. And the rank 8 Gu immortal guarding this grotto heaven was the retired emperor from 3 generations ago. As it involved the chance of becoming an immortal, the 10 great scholar selection looked like a beautiful competition, but the hidden undercurrents reeked with blood. Every force contended and fought using all kinds of connections and relations. They tried to get the position by hook or by crook. Great Scholar Shen, who competed against Teacher Jiang, was one of the 10 great scholars in one of the selections. But his political talent is not outstanding, or maybe, he doesn't have a powerful background, so he is still at rank 5 peak stage. This teacher of mine is also the same. He had once been one of the 10 great scholars, but was not recruited to be an official. My talent barely meets the standard of the selection. Moreover, I am my teacher's disciple and have his influence. The imperial court won't like this. Even if I am selected, I probably won't be a high-ranking official. At most, I will only be a junior official who will have to work hard for the imperial court, and this will delay my cultivation. I have no one to back me up, so my cultivation will keep on being delayed my whole life. Teacher Jiang and Great Scholar Shen probably saw this future, so they were not willing to become officials and wandered outside the imperial court. One opened a private school while the other roamed everywhere. Li Xiaobai was clear in his mind. It could not be said Teacher Jiang and Great Scholar Shen did not have a future. If they could solve the mystery of immortal ascension and successfully pass the tribulation, they would also become Gu immortals. But this profound literature grotto heaven was small when compared to the 5 regions, and had very limited resources. Moreover, the colossal imperial court controlled almost all the immortal materials. It was extremely difficult and almost hopeless for people like Teacher Jiang and Great Scholar Shen to become Gu immortals. Teacher Jiang invited Li Xiaobai alone to the riverside and conversed with him to persuade this student to give up on the current 10 great scholars selection. He was actually showing deep concern. He knew Li Xiaobai's strength was low. Although it fulfilled the minimum standard, there was simply no hope. The 10 great scholar selection was a whirlpool which had killed many young scholars. Teacher Jiang had made painstaking efforts to teach and guide Li Xiaobai. He did not want this student to be implicated and die a miserable death. However, he did not know Li Xiaobai was aware of everything. He was even clear of how to become an immortal. But the show still had to be performed. Li Xiaobai asked questions first, which was then followed by him expressing his regrets and unwillingness to give up. Finally, he solemnly thanked Teacher Jiang and said he was willing to give up on this selection, and even give up on the future selections. This child is worth teaching. Teacher Jiang felt huge relief and left with a relaxed heart. Li Xiaobai moved along the riverside towards the way back home. I can become an immortal by myself. But if I rashly undergo immortal ascension at such a fast speed, it will definitely make that rank 8 Gu immortal vigilant. He will definitely investigate, and if he finds any clues or even has only a trace of doubt, I will be in a fatal danger. This was not the outcome Li Xiaobai and Fang Yuan's main body wanted to see. Fang Yuan had used soul replacement and secretly arranged this clone, Li Xiaobai, to save time and let the clone open the way, and even gain control of this profound literature grotto heaven alone. Although this was only a small move, if it succeeds, it would definitely save a lot of Fang Yuan's time and energy. Naturally, there was also a backup plan. When Li Xiaobai grows to a certain stage, he could cooperate with the main body outside to scheme against the rank 8 Gu immortal. But it is too early for that. I can be considered as having established my footing because of Teacher Jiang. I studied hard in this period of time and have gained some fame. But this environment is not enough to continue my progress. If I can be selected as a great scholar, it will definitely be a springboard for me. Unfortunately, I have no power or background, and only have a teacher. I will definitely not have a good ending if I participate in the selection. Actually, joining the Imperial Court is the best cultivation path. The Imperial Court controls most of the immortal materials. Even if I become an immortal in the future, it will be hard to achieve anything further without these cultivation resources. Li Xiaobai was lamenting inwardly when his steps paused. He saw a person lying on a bush in the riverside. "Miss, what's the matter with you?" After confirming the surrounding condition, Li Xiaobai went to help the girl. When he carried the unconscious girl to the shore, he shockingly discovered this person was actually Su Qi Han. What happened? This Su Qi Han is the current high-ranking official Chancellor Su's daughter, and is in charge of this current 10 Great Scholars selection competition. She was actually injured to the point she was unconscious. Chancellor Su is a rank 6 Gu immortal. Su Qihan is also a predetermined future official of the imperial court, she definitely has immortal methods to protect her. But she actually fell into such a predicament, this 10 great scholar selection's hidden undercurrents are truly too deep. Inside profound literature grotto heaven, men and women could become immortals without discrimination, both could become officials as well, naturally. Many women were even more talented than men. A large number of all-girls private schools and institutes were spread all over profound literature grotto heaven. And the 10 great scholars naturally were not only males and also included women. Just as he was thinking, Su Qihan woke up with a light sound. "You saved me." She looked at Li Xiaobai with a heated look. Li Xiaobai thought, why is there something wrong with this gaze? He nodded his head and was just about to speak. Su Qihan covered his lips and turned around suddenly, pressing Li Xiaobai to the ground. What is she trying to do? Li Xiaobai's body tensed up, he was a little muddled, what was she playing at? Su Qihan sat on his body and began to remove his clothes in a hurry. Li Xiaobai was bewildered and said while stammering, Miss Su, please behave yourself." Su Qihan's movements paused as her eyes narrowed, "You know me?" Li Xiaobai gulped his saliva, his forehead filled with cold sweat, "Miss Su, you are selecting the 10 great scholars, of course I know you. Miss Su, I am Teacher Jiang's student and had parted with Teacher Jiang just earlier." Li Xiaobai was truly afraid, Su Qihan had rank 5 peak stage cultivation, he was not her match. At present, there were only the two of them at the riverside. Su Qihan was in a strange state, Li Xiaobai mentioned Teacher Jiang to prevent himself from being harmed. Su Qihan took a deep gaze at Li Xiaobai, an unnatural blush floated on her face as she gave a deep sigh, "It's too late, your teacher is already far away. Right now, within 10 li of distance, there is only you and me. What are you trying to do?" "Ah." Li Xiaobai was struck gently by Su Qihan and fell into a daze. This was absolutely not something he wanted. According to his plan, he could grow stably. But now, he was like meat on the chopping board, others could do whatever they wanted. If his secret were to be discovered, that would be extremely bad. Li Xiaobai wanted to remain clear-headed, but Su Qihan's methods were unique. He used all his strength to struggle but could not even budge. In his dazed state, he felt like he had landed in an icy cave, next, it was like he had fallen into raging waves, moving up and down. Then, the cave became warmer like a gentle wind had brushed past his face, light rain drizzled as it became more warm and moist. Finally, he felt like he had turned into a waterfall, with a torrential explosion, he fainted in pleasure. Who knew how long passed, he woke up slowly. He was extremely exhausted and a trace of weakness surged in his body. He quickly inspected the situation and saw his clothes were already torn completely and he was lying inside a cave. Su Qihan was in the midst of dressing herself beside him. Miss Su." Li Xiaobai barely opened his mouth, he did not even have the strength to speak much. Su Qihan continued to put on her clothes without looking at him, her voice was calm, "It has already been 3 days and 3 nights since we met. Relax, She paused as she was finally unable to hide the turbulence in her heart, her voice even shaking a little, "I will take responsibility. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know, report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible."